Hooah!
Welcome back to the Combo Couch, everyone. Pasta Lula here.
Did you say your name wrong?
I said Pasta Jarduli here. How can I say my name wrong?
I sounded like you said it wrong.
Damn.
I don't know.
Is it going to be that kind
Anyway,
of show right now? Is that what
Fiorella.
is that you're going to just
Mm.
out of the gate? You're going to just start ragging on me?
I thought I heard something. I guess it was my bad. I
Yeah,
don't know.
it definitely
Mm.
was your bad.
No, I'm
Mhm.
just trying to
Who gives a
offer.
shit about the fucking marmot?
Well, I care about the Marmot fan because I still think we're thrusted in the worst, stupidest, dumbest, craziest, messed up
Mhm.
timeline there could be. I mean, it's like dumb, like the dumbest timeline.
Well,
No,
it is dumb. There are some good things though.
oh really? You're gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna provide some silver lining.
You know,
Yeah.
there's just good things. There's good people, good things,
Everybody's because you got that picture with you, smiling in Moscow with the snow behind you. It's the setting. It's like I'm very fearful that I won't see you ever again. That you're gonna just stay there. And,
Stop.
people's like, you're gonna think you're gonna see Fee one day, or she's gonna stay there. I'm like, she might stay there. She seems to be in all her glory. Forget about it, fam. Thank you.
Anyway,
while you're there having a good time, frolicking all over town, craziness,
frolicking.
yeah, frolicking all over town. Stuff is going cray, fam.
Fam, things are going crazy. I did get to spend some time with my friend Eva Bartlett and my other friend, who is not a public figure or whatever, but she's great. And we got to go to Moscow and see all the pretty lights as well. And I went there twice this weekend, so it was nice. Yes. And so I guess I was frolicking, after working hard. And I go back to work soon, and I'm working now, so yeah. But things are crazy, fam. Especially in Peru.
Yes.
Huh?
Things are crazy. Work never ends. By the way, let's share it out there, guys. There's 11 people, 11 premium members over on the Convo Couch Rock Fan. Guys, we want you to do a favor. If you can like it, you can share. Pretty soon, hopefully starting in January, we got to talk to the Rock Fan crew. We'll be able to offer you a cheaper subscription than the one that is offered now. The new subscription price is $14.99. And that gives you everybody's premium content across the board. But if you want to stay specific to the Convo Couch and just support the Convo Couch, we're going to have a low price coming out cheaper than what's offered now for $14.99. Don't worry about that. We love you guys. We're going to take care of you. We're going to do the best we can. But if you are a premium subscriber, do us a favor. Go over to the Rock for Now. Watch that. Like it. Share it. Subscribe it. If you got a few extra bucks, please do so. We are also over on Rumble too as well right now. We got about 35 people watching over there. Fee Founder Home with a heart says fun facts. Who's hanging on out on Rumble? Guys, go over there, share that Rumble link. And if Jilly Love and Lucky Burrito, whoever's in the chat today, I know DC's over there. DC's always busting my chops. DC, I love you, brother. I love rubbing it in the face of the libertarians that had started from a socialist party. They hate that shit, but I let them know all the time too as well. And if I see stupid things being tweeted out from the New Hampshire Libertarian Party, I go over there and I give them hell. So we're keeping them on their toes. If you guys haven't seen last Tuesday, we did a show. We did a little panel. Clint Russell from Liberty Lockdown. Clint Curtis is our election integrity guy who. He has his own story. If you know the Convo Couch, you know Clint Curtis' story. Clint Russell, the libertarian, Mises Caucus guy, with Dave Smith, the comedian, came on the show with Jimmy Dore. We talked a little bit about healthcare. We talked a little bit about everything. That was last week. Please go on over there, check it on out.
Got spicy.
Yeah, things did get a little spicy. Fam said that she wishes she was there because she would have kind of blown it up a little bit differently. We did start off, too, with the whole, is Russian justified for doing military actions in Ukraine? So that was a very interesting conversation. I don't think Fam agrees.
Fam does not agree. Fam.
No, huh, Fam?
No. Fam does not. No.
But anyways, that's all the outlets, guys. So do us a favor, go over there and do all those things. Fam, I'm going to let you get started. I'm so sorry. Go dive right into it. Long show today, a lot of stuff to go over. Peru, fam.
Right. So there are deaths now of protesters associated with the Peruvian police. 3 deaths, actually. Initially, it was 1. Now it's 3. So authorities have confirmed that the fatality, there was one particular one, and most of these deaths have occurred in Anda. I God, oh my God, even I have a hard time saying Anda Aulas is a young community member who was shot on the neck during police repression. School has been suspended for Monday. Repressions against protesters who demand a new Congress and freedom of Castillo continue. So this is from Jaime Herrera, who's a journalist that's there. And this is the body of the person that was shot. So the what's been going on is there have been obvious the same thing that happens with police everywhere, right? You have the rubber bullets, you have live rounds, you have just beating and brutality. People have been getting disappeared off the streets. This reminds me of that time when the police went crazy during the protests for George Floyd, where they were putting people into unmarked vans and literally taking them away and like just beating up like 18-year-olds that were like just holding up signs. That happened. Even if you disagree with the protests or you thought they got violent, well, in the experience I had, the vast majority of the people were not violent. There were definitely some outliers that were, trying to start shit, trying to set things on fire, trying to like create more chaos. But the overall issue I have with the way Peru is being covered by pretty much all outlets beside Casachan News, maybe Telesur, is that they're focused on the protesters pushing the violence rather than what the protesters are responding to. And they're the ones getting killed, they're the ones getting disappeared, they're the ones that are really standing up. What's happening in Peru is actually a really big deal. I don't think people realize how big this is. Peru is a neoliberal country for the most part, because the majority of the representation comes from Lima, which is highly neoliberal. But the people on the outside, on the provinces, especially in the southern mining regions, are coming out and saying enough, and they're coming into the city and kind of starting what Bolivia started a while ago, where they're trying to get a movement that is led by them instead of the urban middle class and the urban elite and the multinational corporations. And I've been listening to a lot of Peruvian Congress that has been talking, trying to figure out what they're going to do next.
Mhm.
And some of them are actually who are on the side of the Castillo side, are talking about globalist, and they say the word globalist, they say globalistas, and they say that the globalists are trying to sell Peru and its resources to these multinational corporations. And the independent commentators that are in Peru, that they have their own shows, mostly on Facebook, and it's all in Spanish, they're all citing this stuff and they're all talking about it as well. And they're saying that the media there is entirely controlled by I think 2 families, and that the CIA, they get the media there in Peru, get their information from Washington, from the same talking points from the CIA. They actually say this. So it's interesting to me. They're suggesting that this coup is most certainly a US backed coup. Well, we know it's US backed because the OAS came in there right away, but they're saying that this is actually orchestrated with the help of Western globalists, including the United States. I haven't seen, obviously, we can talk about the connections, obviously, of the OAS and the NED and these multinational corporations, but it would be great to find direct monetary connections, direct meetings. We know that Luis Almagro from the OAS met with the vice president immediately. So we know that was already in play. We know of the resource extraction and the lithium in particular. But it would be great to continue pushing this particular angle, because what it seems like to me is I haven't seen somebody as anti-globalist in Latin America in speaking about, the New World Order and stuff as Evo Morales. And like Evo Morales, many of the people in the countryside of Peru, the rural areas, have that same mindset. They're very much more of like, no, we want to grow our own food. We don't want these chemicals. We want our resources. We want to be in harmony with nature. We don't want, they're very much like that concept. And the global agenda concept is diametrically opposed to that because it wants to enslave all these people to do their bidding. So I think this is a very important point that I think a lot of people are missing that's not being talked about anywhere. And I really, really want to focus on that going forward.
Let me say this much too as well. I think that a lot of people in Peru might not necessarily praise Castillo, but what's right is right, fam. And we're gonna go over what it is because even though he might not be as beloved as, let's say, Ortega in Nicaragua or Maduro in Venezuela or even Xiomara Castro in Honduras, what's right is right. They still don't like what's going on, the way it's going down. So I see a lot of Peruvians standing on principle, which is great. But my question to you is, and here's something too as well, fam. When we're talking about the actual receipts and the ties, when people go, well, how can you say it's Western backed coup? He was trying to coup the government, and they stopped him. But we understand the history of Peru. You did mention the lithium. I think we can also mention the drug trade in which Castillo talked about when he was campaigning out there that wants to be solidified by the CIA. So they don't want him getting involved there as well. But the CIA has been deep rooted in this country for quite some time, fam. Alberto Fujimori, you know what I'm saying? You know, he got caught and there was plenty of receipts. And we understand how the West is intertwined there. So yeah, I'd like to find more receipts. You did mention the OAS and the way that kind of was set up so quickly, and it just seemed like it was just boom, one thing after the other. Sorry about that. I'm sorry, I just had a little issue there. I don't know where that came from. But my question to you is: will he change his attitude now towards left leaders of the region? Because he was once kind of like we did talked about when he got in. He fired his foreign minister to appease the right. He was kind of warming to the OAS at one point, right? And we talked about the shade he threw at Nicaragua as far as Daniel Ortega and everything. But right now, with the way the situations are, and we're going to talk about the demands of the protesters, do you think he will change his attitude towards some of the leftist allies, the potential allies in the region? Because he didn't embrace them the way some of these other leaders embraced each other's, getting elected.
I think Castillo learned the hard way that you can't placate to everybody. You can't be a people pleaser. You have to stand on what the people who elected you, and the people who elected him to be not necessarily. They elected him knowing he's not a revolutionary. He's more like a Lula than anything like a Daniel Ortega or even or Evo Morales. He's not even where Evo Morales is, and Evo Morales is in a strong way a revolutionary of sorts, because even though Bolivia isn't Cuba, it's really led by the working class. It's a country that is led by the working class, and the indigenous class, which is the other side of the Peruvian thing, that the Peruvian conflict that's happening. That's also really big in a big component of the situation. And I think if he doesn't learn, it would be stupid, and he would be completely out of politics. And I think, by the way, not just Castillo needs to learn, but other presidents need to watch this. Oli Vargas from Castlechon News mentioned that Gustavo Petro better be watching this and seeing that what happens to leaders who try to placate to the center and the right too much, because they, that's the thing with Gustavo Petro, is we know that he's probably to the right of Castillo in terms of, the economics of it. He's definitely to the right of Castillo. He's definitely more of a liberal, like left-leaning liberal. But
he does also, he's more like history with intertwined working with these groups. Those classical pictures of Gustavo Petro with the Clintons, you don't have that with Castillo. You don't have that. Go ahead.
Well, he doesn't have the political background either. Castillo is more somebody that's completely inexperienced politically, and I think that's where his weaknesses were. He didn't really know what to do, how to handle things, how to really, get out there and be able to get in front of this. Another politician, like Danny mentioned, like Cristina Fernandez Kirchner, would know how to do this. She's been in politics. She's going to know how to respond better. But Castillo doesn't really know. He's completely inexperienced politically. The most political experience he had was as a union leader and a striker. You know, he wasn't. He was political in terms of like local actions and that sort of thing. It'd be like somebody of a city council position, not even like a union leader becoming president. It's two completely different things. So he doesn't really have the political gravitas to have done that. But I mean, it still doesn't excuse his bad decisions. And he fell into this trap. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the legalities of the Peruvian constitution, because the Peruvian Congress finds itself in a quandary because of the legality of the constitution that is actually on the side of Castillo. So let's talk about though the violence against protesters first, because this is also not being covered by the media. So again, authorities from Peru's national police did confirm that the protests and political regression against them has left 3 people dead in Andahuaylas, Peru. And there it is. It's in Spanish, but they literally confirmed that in that document. And so 3 people have died as a result of these protests. And I want to show you guys some of the protests that have been posted by several journalists, independent journalists. And we can go ahead and take a look at those. And again, these are people from outside of Lima, some of them in Lima, in Plaza San Martin, where we have been. But most of them coming from the outskirts, particularly the rural inner regions of Peru. La Sierra is how we call it. So, this is just something I said about Dina Boluarte, who was talking about the violence against the protesters. And I said, you know, with what face does she come? She's saying, you know, the protesters are being violent and that they are expressing condolences to all this political violence. But she's really not talking about why they're protesting, right? They're protesting because they feel like she's an usurper, that she doesn't belong in that position, and they want new elections, or they want Castillo back in the position of president. They don't want new elections of president, but they want una Asamblea Nacional, which is a new national assembly, meaning a new Congress. So they want a new congressional election. They want those people to leave. They don't trust those people. And so that's what they're demanding. And of course, the release of Castillo. So here's some video from Telesur of some of these manifestations. Let's just have a look. There's the police. And in spite of all this, you know, they don't have the weaponry that the U.S. police have, I have to say. I believe this is in Lima, if I'm not mistaken. So just to reiterate, this is in Lima. And again, the protesters are demanding the dissolution of Congress, new elections, and Castillo's release. So there we go. And there's a couple more I wanted to show. Pictures. There was obviously tear gas. Again, they want an immediate election, a constituent assembly, the Asamblea Nacional, and the closure of Congress. So while this is happening in Lima, and Pasta's been to Lima, we've been to Lima, you know, it's not like this. Like, there's not people out in the streets like this isn't a country that's experienced that. I mean, it's been mostly stable the last couple years, but in terms of political instability, it's been big, but not like this. We haven't seen these manifestations at this level in the last 7 presidents that were ousted by Congress. You didn't see the people come out from rural parts to support their president. And this is something people don't know. You didn't see that because they didn't elect those presidents. Those presidents were elected by the majority. They were liberal presidents. They were not presidents that represented the rural peasant class of Peru. And when people go, for example, when you as a tourist go into Peru and you go to Cusco, you go to Machu Picchu, you go to all these, the Nazca lines, all these areas that are tourists, that's where that's the people of these areas I'm talking about, the areas of the inner areas, the areas of where the people literally live off the land, or they live off of tourism, or they work in the mining industry. So these people are coming in and they're saying that this is completely unjust. And this is once again in on the Wailas, and the police shot at indigenous people from helicopters. And this is, of course, because of what they were demanding. So there's a picture of the helicopter, and I believe this is a video, and we can check that out as well. So as you can see, these are like the typical people from there. They call them las cholitas, with the outfit, the skirts, and they're there, and they're protesting what and demanding these actions be taken. Now, I haven't seen this in the last like 8 years, like I said, and I think it's important to note that. And I think this is the beginning. I think this is radicalized Peruvians that it wasn't there before. Like I said, Peru is a capitalist country, a country that has had the West in there. Like when we go to Lima, the capital, you see a lot of Western influence, a lot of support for the West. But, these people are saying, well, F that. Like, we've been forgotten. Let's show you guys what we want. So I what's happening is really big, I think, for the country.
Fam, did you see that woman on the tarmac over there swinging the rock?
Yeah,
that shit's crazy.
They do that. Yeah.
Holy cow! She was like swinging the rock like it was a movie, and she was like a Grace Jones character. Holy cow, that's nuts. That's nuts. For fam, what do we got here from our good friend Dennis Rotutsiak?
So this is what I wanted to.
I say his name wrong all the time, right?
Yeah, that's entirely wrong.
Rogatuyak. Fam,
Rogatuyak.
Thank you.
Rogatuyak. Can you just scroll up for a second? I just want to make sure I'm describing this right. Okay, so this is Arequipa, and this Arequipa is in the southern region of Peru. It's close to the mining industry, but even closer is Puno to its, I think Puno is to its east. And that's where there's the most, there's the most support for Castillo, because that's where the mining is and that's where the resources are, especially lithium. And he said the strongest support for President Castillo has come from the inner regions, mountain provinces, and the indigenous majority regions of Peru. The miners of Arequipa have been marching towards Lima today in opposition to the coup. So this is Arequipa, and you guys can see the videos by the beach, marching along the coast. So that's just one, and like these, there's just so many videos. And like I said, Telesur has been doing a great job. There's just been very few outlets actually covering that. Let me see what else.
Well, so right now we have that's the mining one's election. Yeah. Okay, so this is the one I saw. I was reading yesterday. I was like, I started laughing because I was reading it off One News, fam. Let me put this one up here, because remember when you were telling us about Alberto Fujimori, about how long he was supposed to call, right? He was supposed to call snap elections, and he was supposed to do them. But how long did he hold on to power before he called snap elections, fam?
Years. I mean, he was supposed to do that year. No,
they're now elections that it's just holding on to power now. So this is something we saw from One News. This is Dina Boluarte's message to the nation. She said the following days. Where is it at? I can't remember. But she says right here. No. 24 months out. I know she said she's going to have the elections now, fam.
Well, in the description, Camilla said it.
Did
or
I put the wrong
spot? News said.
Was it a tweet?
No, she is. She is good. It was a tweet. Yeah, in the tweet.
In the tweet, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the tweet. So you probably just put the article. But yeah, she's going to have elections months from now. I think it's God, it's like a year and a half from now.
April
Like I
of
think 24
2024.
months.
Right here, right here,
Yeah.
right here. She goes, bring forward the general elections for the month of April of 2024. Fam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, fam, she needs to get everything stable over there before she could do anything.
And she's not going to get everything stable because the people don't want her. The people see her as an usurper, and so does Castillo, because Castillo has spoken, and we're going to talk about that. But yeah, this is she's supposed to leave. I mean, according to the Constitution, she's supposed to hold elections now. That's the Fujimorista Constitution, by the way. What people need to understand is Peru is still under the Fujimorista Constitution, the Fujimori Constitution. It's still there. It's kind of like when Pinochet had the Constitution, and they didn't change the Constitution until recently with Boric, and it's kind of like that, where the Constitution remains, the Fujimori Constitution remains, and he wanted to change it, but he didn't get a chance to. But according to that Constitution, she's supposed to hold these elections, and right away, and she hasn't. So, but yeah.
Well, fam,
You have
this is
this
something. Yeah, this is something I saw that was a pretty amazing too, as well. In Peru, protesters started taking police hostage every time a protester was arrested. Today, they met and did a hostage exchange. Fam, I don't know how legit this is, but seems really freaking awesome.
No, it's yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is Casaccio News and stuff. I mean, I'm sure there's
No, yeah,
freaking terms of agreement and all this other bullshit, but this shit is just wild. Take a look at this, fam.
Take note, USA. Mothers are always yelling at them. Yeah, that's funny. So yeah, so they did. Take notes, guys. If you ever wanna, fam, you're muted.
I mean, I don't want to say that's like fucking like I'm gonna encourage that shit, but that shit is fun.
All I said is take notes, guys. That's all.
Yeah, take. I mean, that's crazy.
But those
about
cops
disappearing, right?
Yeah, they're disappearing. Some of them are disappearing, but it depends on how organized you are, right? It depends on who has the upper hand. The only problem is in the United States, our cops are armed like the army, like literally. I mean, you see the weapons those cops have. They got like a
if you
little
took a cop hostage here, forget about it, fam. Forget about it.
But
here's the demand, by the way.
Yeah, the three demands we've been talking about, but this is the closure of the right-wing Congress, right? They want a dissolution, actually, which is the closure. They want new elections for that Congress to elect new people, and they want to free Pedro Castillo. Also, what they're calling for is for Pedro Castillo to be reinstated as the president. Is another part of what some people are calling for. Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, what they're doing is, like we said, they might not praise him the way they praise other leaders. He's new, whatnot. A lot of people might not like the tactics he got in, but what is right is right. And they don't want the West coming in.
They elected him.
What's that?
They elected him.
Yeah,
it's just it's
that's it. They want you know what I'm saying? They don't want they want national sovereignty. So let's take a look. I'm gonna get us out of here. Mute us up. Guys, do us a favor. Hit the like button, hit the share button. Casaccio News, fam.
More or less individual people, like few small organizations, but it was very spontaneous. I feel that today unions and groups of ronderos that Castillo was part of will join this protest. I know that there are social movements from different parts of the country that are coming to Lima or are going to Lima today to protest against this Congress and to ask for general elections and to ask for the liberation of Castillo, because he's detained right now under charges of rebellion, and that doesn't hold honestly, in the crime or criminal code of Peru, those charges that they are imposing against Castillo. So it's not very organized, in a sense that there are no structures organizing this protest, which make them honest and genuine also, but make them kind of difficult to achieve concrete demands beyond the general elections that they are asking for.
Okay, so those the more important points of what she said is a couple things. One thing was that the protests are genuine. This is how you differentiate between protests in Iran that are US backed and Western backed, protests in Hong Kong, and the a lot of the protests in Peru, they're not coming, you don't see English speaking uh you know you don't see the majority of like Western uh outlets or Western leftists, even, except like the handful of anti-imperialists that we know, um really supporting Castillo or supporting his the validity of his election and the fact that he was elected, and seeing this as a Western backed coup. You see the opposite. They're focused on, oh my God, he tried to dissolve Congress. He's trying to be a dictator. That's the prevailing narrative. You also don't see the coverage of these people and how they have come from the outside to try to pretty much put in the rightful president as they see it, liberate him, and demand a new Congress to pretty much try to regain control of their government. You don't see that being covered many places. Why? Because that is actually a genuine revolt. It's a genuine sort of uprising against the current regime that, well, not even the current regime, but the Fujimorista regime in Congress that has ousted him with Western influence. And so this is the difference between like a genuine protest. It's not like they all got together and were like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to be funded and no, it was like spontaneous. And the issue with spontaneous rebellion is it's hard. It's really good because it's genuine and it's real and people are passionate and they're angry and they want to get something done. The problem is, as she stated, it's harder to control. And because it's harder to control, it's good because there's less likely of some sort of type of funding or infiltration, but also it's harder to meet these objectives. So it's kind of like a catch-22. But I think they have these same goals at the end, so I think they're doing somewhat of a good job in trying to get this accomplished. And the other thing that is mentioned is that these grounds by which Castillo is in prison do not stand. They are not legitimate. And I'm going to go into that in a minute. But Castillo spoke out. This is like as of a few hours, actually. He spoke out and he said, he reiterates that he unconditionally is faithful to the popular and constitutional mandate that he holds as president. He is not going to resign or abandon his high and sacred functions. He wants to remain president. And he has also said that he does not want to hold new presidential elections. He says that's a trap. And he thinks that it's a trap because he thinks probably that the elections will be manipulated in favor of the Fujimorista party, and that they're not going to have representation. So he said that what was set up with Dina Boluarte is pretty. She's repeating what the Congress wants, what her handlers want. He's saying that the people should not fall for their dirty game of new elections. He wants a constituent assembly, which means get rid of the old Congress and elect new ones. And he wants freedom. He's advocating for his freedom. So this is very interesting. As of the last few hours, Castillo has spoken out and he has stood his ground and said he does not wish to abdicate his presidency. Now they're going to say, oh, wow, he's a dictator. And this is what's been happening. This is when I have a problem with Peruvians or who don't know their history, just like I have a problem with anybody else. Some people are saying, wow, he's like Fujimori. No, he's not like Fujimori at all. The Fujimoristas are in Congress right now. They're doing this coup. He's actually
Yeah.
he actually tried to stop it. Just because he tried to dissolve Congress, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that because there's a lot of evidence pointing to the fact that he was told to do this and advised to do this by his advisors, who in the end left him.
Mhm.
And that this was all a trap because he did then, by doing that, allow for them to use that as an excuse. Okay. So before I get into that, fam, did you want to say anything before I go into this?
Yeah, well, listen, I was talking to you earlier about somebody, what I said, like, this is Western backed, and people just keep on repeating. And this is like American leftists that are keep
Yeah.
repeating this shit. And they just get so
Yeah.
crazy. Like, I put somebody on blast. I'm like, you're repeating State Department talking points and CIA fucking, little quotes, and you are calling yourself a leftist. And I can understand why you would get pissed off at people for not understanding and learning their history and just looking at the receipts. I mean, understanding the situation for what it is. And it really is a point of like anger for me, the way people on the conservative side will be so hypocritical. We'll get into what's going on in Brazil, how people are standing up and saying, oh my God, this is awful, whatnot. Dude, how many times have we cooed or got our nose involved with a coup in Brazil? You know what I'm saying? For how long? And now you want to sit there and stand on ceremony, acting like you're standing for truth and justice and for the people and against the CIA. And meanwhile, there are deep roots inside Peru with all the receipts they're needed. You know what I'm saying? It's no secret what's going on. I mean, all our intervention, all our intervention in Latin America is out in the open for people to see. But now we don't want to say nothing. We want to just keep quiet about that. It just seems so fucking hypocritical to me, fam.
Well, because it's team sports.
Yeah,
it's team sports. This is just like the Twitter thing. This is why I don't play that game. It's like, well, either if it was a legitimate, like if this was a, like you can't do that. Like this is like, obviously there's a coup happening. And they're so silent about this, but it's because they agree with Bolsonaro's ideology. So they're like, oh, they're the victims. And this is like the issue I have with that whole situation, because they're pushing for a coup in Brazil too. They're pushing for like military and Western involvement to get rid of Lula. So it's kind of like, wait a minute, I thought you wanted Brazil to be independent and fair. So it's just like this whole thing that it just doesn't make any sense. And again, and saying that Castillo was a dictator just because he tried to dissolve, or he said he was going, he didn't even try. He said he was going to at the advice of his own group. And there was a paper that came out from the military and the police saying that they would support the current government, meaning the president. So I'm going to go into that because that is extremely important for people to know. He didn't just do that. He didn't try to do that on his own. He didn't just come up with that. Like, this whole situation is a setup.
What also pisses me off, and I haven't heard it enough, but we'll hear it as it comes up. They'll call Castillo a communist. They'll call him a socialist, and they'll use that to justify intervention as well, because that's what they always do. You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole thing about the anti-communist rhetoric. And I'm not advocating for communism here. My partner can do that if she wants, but I'm advocating for the acceptance of communism. Before the show got started with Dave Smith and Jimmy Dore and stuff, me and Dave were talking about Castro, Fidel, and how collectivism is forced upon these people because the empire is putting their boot on their neck. And there was a lot of there was a lot of talks to him that if in fact Castro even wanted to be a full-blown communist, but he had no choice because the empire forces these people into a form of collectivism. Plain and simple. They want national sovereignty, and what they want more than anything is the American apparatus out of their country. That's what they want. That's what it's all about. It's not this culture war or anything else. It's about having the right to say what goes on in your own goddamn country. And for once, I wish both the left and the right in America would take their head out of their ass and just fucking call balls and strikes. Enough is enough. We don't need to be down in these countries. And like you said, in Brazil, they're justifying another coup. And they're going to do it here as well. Fam, are there any receipts whatsoever showing that Castillo was corrupt and was taking money somewhere? This is the first time I'll hear it. And that's all I have to do is they have to say it. because they'll be like,
The
oh, he's a
media,
communist socialist, he's corrupt. That means, and
the
that's
media
it.
has been calling him a communist terrorist from the beginning before he was even elected. They were saying he had terrorist ties. And by terrorist, that's why I spoke about the shining path in my article, because any single time that anybody is remotely not left or left in terms of economics, right? In terms of saying, oh, we want to, we don't want our money to go out of the country. We want to keep our money in here. And so that's what it means to be left in Peru. Literally, it means you don't want the money to go to multinational corporations that are stripping the country from its riches and giving it outside, and of course the country remains poor. So that's what it means to be left in Peru. And if that's what it means to be left, I mean, I don't understand why any anti-imperialist wouldn't fall in that, right? Because it's like, wait a minute, you want these countries to have self-sustainability so that people don't come from the United States or to the United States or to other countries. You want these countries to sustain themselves. So again, I'm going to talk a little bit about the illegality of why Castillo is in prison and how that it doesn't fly. So first, I want to mention that immediately, Dina Boluarte had a meeting with the representatives of Fuerza Popular. That's Keiko Fujimori's party. That's the Fujimorista party. That she immediately had a meeting. This was his vice president. She betrayed him. They call her the Judas. Judas. Because she, in a video, had said that she stood by Castillo no matter what. Immediately, she was offered whatever she was offered. Like I said, there are reports of Congress people being offered thousands of Peruvian soles to vote against Castillo and vote him out. So in Peru, in Peruvian dirty politics, that's how it works. You pay somebody enough money, somebody has a price, you give it to them, and that's how it's worked. And that's what you can't expect one individual to oust, even in 4 years and 5 years. That's what Gustavo Petro is facing in Colombia. That's what a lot of these leaders are facing in Latin America, because that's just how it's worked, because the way the system has just pushed them, and because there's just corruption too in general. And so she had this meeting. So what does that tell you? That immediately she's having this meeting and they're saying, okay, well, we're going to talk about a unity with what? With the previous government that backs and supports the dictatorship, like the what happened with Fujimori, where he killed thousands of people, literally completely controlled all the media. And it's not like at this point where Peru's at, that the media isn't controlled by this elite, these two elite families, that the media isn't bought. It is bought. It is entirely bought. You listen to Peruvian mainstream media if you speak Spanish, and it's just bullshit. So Pasta was talking about, is there any proof of Castillo? No, there's not any proof, because guess what? If there was proof, they would have put him in jail before. They would have, even if they didn't have proof, if they had a way to try to like stick it on him, they would have done it already. They've been trying to, since the beginning, since he was elected, to put him in jail. So if there was proof, they would have already done it. They're trying to get him on tax evasion. The problem is they're supposed to do that before. They're supposed to have proof that he did something before putting him in jail, not after. Right now, Pedro Castillo is in jail for saying he might dissolve Congress, but he technically didn't do anything. And he technically did it under the banner as president, and he would be immune. So I'm going to talk about that. But before, that's the link I sent so you guys would know, fam, but I translated it in the pictures, and the translation isn't exact, so I will go through it.
So I'm gonna just go to what's in the doc then. I don't need to do this right now. Okay,
no, because
all right, let me go.
I just did it so you guys know that it's a legitimate link. Yeah. So one of his lawyers and a member of Congress from his party are insinuating that Pedro Castillo was actually drugged. Now, this is what they're saying. I obviously don't know. This is what they're saying. So they're saying that one of the lawyers in charge of the defense of the examination of this whole entire thing said that Castillo could have been drugged prior to announcing the dissolution of Congress of his country. And this, of course, hurried his departure from the presidency, because they used that as the excuse. This person is Guillermo Oliveira Diaz. He was a lawyer sent by the family of Castillo to take his defense, and he has accompanied the entire investigation while he's still in custody. And he says that before they gave him a drink, they gave him water, and after drinking the water, he felt weird. He said he felt like out of it. And everybody saw when he was reading the letter, his hand was shaking, and everybody was wondering why the hell he's shaking. Now, he's saying, this could have been a thing. In addition, he said that Castillo was not commissioned to write the public discourse that he gave before his dismissal. But his former prime minister, Anibal Torres, who's also in jail, they also took his prime minister to jail, was the one who wrote it. So they also talked about that his psychological state was not optimal, that the psychological state of him when he read the message was not, it seemed like he was induced, and he is actually urging a toxicological exam and security cameras, and a look into the security cameras of the palace, of the ministry palace where everything took place, where he resides. And so, of course, they are alleging that he had a conspiracy and in order to have a rebellion and to pretty much become like a dictator. Now, this is, of course, among other investigations, right? Because he has other investigations that are ongoing that they've been saying, oh, he stole money.
Yeah.
He's he's not giving his taxes. I mean, kind of like the same shit they were trying to do to Trump. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And that he could be sentenced between 10 to 20 years in prison if he is found guilty of these charges. Now, that's pretty much what his lawyer and one of the Congress members alleges, that there was something there. But the main point I want to get out of that too, even if that isn't true, even if they're just saying that, he didn't write that. He was advised to also say this by his advisors. So when he did say this, right, I want to reiterate a couple things. According to the Peruvian Constitution, and this is what I've investigated myself, there's a section of 117. And this is the Fujimorista Constitution. This is the same constitution that operated under Alberto Fujimori. Castillo wanted to get rid of it, but he didn't get a chance. But it says that if a president steals or is corrupt, you can't do anything about it until their term ends. This is the kind of shit that was in that Fujimori Constitution. This is the irony. This is why Castillo wanted to get rid of it. Because if a president does something wrong because he's president, he's immune. And it's in terms of if he's like not, if he's taking more money than he should, if he's evading taxes, if he's doing anything like that, he's immune. And that's in the freaking Peruvian Constitution that Fujimori had. Obviously, it's there because Fujimori had to protect himself, and that's how he remained a dictator for the longest time. So even if Castillo did something in terms of corruption, they technically couldn't prosecute him. And in terms of disbanding Congress, he's allowed to as president because of the Constitution now, but he's allowed to if the army and some of his ministers agreed with it, which his prime minister did, and he was told that by other people that they had backed him. But then what happened was immediately after he announced that, they turned on him and they said no, and then all of Congress immediately voted to say he was trying to push a coup and that he needs to be out as president. So it was a setup to get him to fall for that, to say that. And once he did that, then they could say, oh, he wants to push a coup. But the problem is, and they're saying, oh, this Article 117 doesn't apply to that. But the problem is he didn't do anything. He only said he would. So there's no legal basis in keeping him in prison for pre-crime, because then it would be pre-crime. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it would be like, okay, well, he said he's going to do this. He didn't actually do it. And again, he would be, if they're trying to get other charges on him, then they would have had to investigate that ahead of time, not after. So what they're trying to do now, he's basically guilty until proven guilty. Right? So that he's in jail now.
Guilty until proven innocent.
But no, he's
He's
like
guilty until he
he's
proves his innocence. It's the
but
opposite way around. He's supposed to be
yeah,
innocent until proven guilty. Yeah, I know what you're saying, fam.
but they're not proving him innocent, period, because they're trying to find something on him. So what I'm saying is either way he's guilty, because
Yeah, I know what you're
they're
saying.
not going to in any way allow him to have his innocence. So this is why the people are rebelling, and they're like, what the hell is going on? This isn't even a valid imprisonment. He shouldn't be in jail. So that's something that's even in the Peruvian constitution. And the ironic part is that these Congress people are saying we need to protect and support our constitution, but the constitution itself says he shouldn't even be in prison for any of this. In fact, you can't even prosecute him, even if he was corrupt. And by the way, yeah, he does have the authority to do this under the constitution if he thought he was backed. And this is the Fujimorista constitution that a lot of these people support. So either they support that constitution or they don't.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to play both sides. So Congress had a whole meeting and they've been talking and arguing this. And some of the Castillo's people have been saying the same, that this is an active. So I'm getting the information directly from watching these congressional hearings that they're having on this very issue. And I think more people need to understand that, instead of just looking at like, oh my God, he tried to dissolve Congress. He's just like Fujimori. No, this is a completely different situation here. He wasn't trying to become the dictator of Peru. He knew that this was coming.
Yeah.
And
why
he
did
didn't know
do
how
this,
else
though,
to
in
do
your
it.
mind? Was it to make sure that the people can get some power because things are so gridlocked and it's hard to govern with the Peruvian constitution the way it is?
Yeah, I mean,
that's what Imran
it
Khan
is.
did, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to govern with it. I mean, he can't do anything. He felt like he had to play ball with them, and he tried. And even then, like they made him fire pretty much everybody. They isolated him, and he allowed this to happen. I mean, there's definitely fault on Castillo for not being a strong leader and not playing ball with them, right? Yeah. And or playing ball with the right, and not he should have not played ball. He should have like stuck to what he did. But when he won, there were more people of the Fuerza Popular, of Keiko's party, than there were of his party anyway. So,
well, you had said something too as well about like he's been abandoned, he's been isolated because he pretty much fired everybody. We talked about his foreign minister getting fired the first week into things, and just the opinions of people. When we went out to dinner and we talked to people in Peru, it's like, no, this guy's weak, man. This is so weak. Like they really even looked, even though they were not a Castillo supporter, they looked down on him even more when he fired his foreign minister, because now it's like, oh my God, what a weak dude. But Boluarte, the vice president, what did you call her?
I called her a vendepatria.
No. I thought she was. What is the traitor name you called her?
A vendepatria.
From what's the guy who
Judas.
Oh, okay. So, fam, I just want to let you know I have some footage of Judas. The last footage known that Judas was around. Guys, let's take a quick look. This is at the Last Supper. Judas, when he got called.
Before this night is over, one of you shall betray me 3 times.
No. Master, how can you feel that anyone here would betray you? You who we would follow even unto our death.
Yes. Does everybody want soup?
Please, we must talk. This may be our last supper.
Hey, it's my first order. Oh, look, one little question, I'll let you all go. Are you all together, or is it separate checks?
Please, go away. Go away.
All right, okay.
Yea, so you say. But one who sits amongst us has already betrayed me this night.
Who?
Who can it be? Judas! Do you want a beverage? Try the mulled wine. It's terrific.
No! Leave us alone! Go!
All right. Jesus.
Yes.
What?
Fam,
just want to show
DC is confused.
Who?
So you're confused because I said the Peruvian constitution, as current, is still the same constitution that Fujimori implemented. It's the same constitution. And under that constitution, why am I being echoed?
Go ahead.
Castillo has the power to dissolve Congress if he is backed by the army and his some of his ministers. He has the power to do that. What Fujimori did was dissolve the constitution and literally stay in power for years and take control of all the media, shut down all the public institutions. That is not the same thing as what he was trying to do, as advised by his people, his cabinet, to say, hey, I'm going to be couped. I'm going to say that I'm going to dissolve the constitution, but not so I can control the entirety of the Peruvian government, so we can hold new elections. Fujimori didn't do that. He didn't want to hold new elections. He just became the supreme leader of the entire country. Also, this comparison to Castillo being Fujimori lacks historical context. First of all, he's diametrically opposed to the politics of Fujimori. The Fujimoristas are the ones in Congress. They're the ones that are trying to pretty much push this sort of constitution for it to remain. What Castillo wanted to do was actually get rid of the constitution, because in that constitution, as you can see, whoever becomes president, Dina Boluarte, she's right now under investigation. But guess what? They can't do anything against her, because if she is a valid president now, they can't actually investigate her for anything, because the president has immunity. So they use the Constitution when it benefits them. But when it came to Castillo, they completely just threw out the benefits that it gave the president. And it doesn't. So either one has to be true. Either they're going to back the Constitution, or they're going to prosecute Castillo. And either way, even if the Constitution said that Castillo, that dissolving Congress was illegal, he didn't do it. He didn't do it. Technically, he said he would, and that's why he has a lawyer and a defense team arguing, wait a minute, this was a setup, because he was advised to do this. He was told he had backing. If he had backing, it would be and he did it under an emergency need. He didn't. It was like, this is an emergency. I need to do this. Needs to happen because the people of Peru need to be represented by a Congress that represents them, not this Congress that is trying to not just coup him, but is basically not representing them. It is representing these multinational corporations. And this whole entire thing has ties to the multinational corporations, the mining industry. But the problem with anarchists is they get stuck with, he's trying to be an authoritarian dictator by dissolving Congress. No, he's not. He's actually trying to give back power to the people, because the stupid Congress is corrupt. They are accepting bribes of thousands of soles in order to get whatever they need. They are involved with the cartel of Peru. And this is their own Congress members are literally saying this right now. In their hearings. So I mean, this is my issue with anarchists. They get stuck on, but he tried to dissolve Congress, so he's no, that's not how it works. You can't leave out the entire context and the entire situation that is happening in Peru and just focus on that and say, oh my God, then he's just trying to be a dictator. It's very myopic. It's reductive. It's just not valid analysis, because you're not taking into account the whole entire picture of what is going on. It's the same thing as saying, well, Putin is a dictator because he invaded and blah, blah, blah. It's the same type of mentality. It's like, you can't leave out the last 9 years against the people of Donbass.
Absolutely. And then the same goes for the situation when it comes to Peru, when there's a boot on people's necks. You know what I'm saying? You have to always look at who's the ultimate aggressor and what's the reaction to the action going to be. I hate when people try to take what Pedro Castillo is doing and look at it as it's like some isolated action. Like all of a sudden he just woke up one day and says, I'm going to coup the government. No, this has been leading up to what's been going on for quite some time. And it's not a coincidence that there's been 5 Peruvian presidents over the last 7 years and nothing can ever get done. And Pham had said when this happened, she'd wished this happened sooner, out of the gate, and somebody with a little bit more cojones instead of the Pedro Castillo's kind of whole journey to where he tried to play both sides, bent the knee, and then threw the Hail Mary at the last second. He wasn't as methodical. And this is what you said, Pham. This is the inexperience as a politician of not having time in Congress, which is caught up to him. And that's why he's dealing it from his heels instead of getting out in front of it.
Yeah. And I mean, the entire Congress, is entirely corrupt, and we really just, it's ridiculous. They are so bribed, and I think he also threatened to expose that bribery. He was saying he was going to expose the fact that they have ties to these cartels. His party of Peru Libre is really small, and they really had very little power. And like I said, the majority of these Congress people have been elected to represent areas in Lima, and the outskirts don't really get any representation. So how is it a valid government to begin with under the constitution of a dictator? There was a desire for him to get rid of that constitution for that reason, because this is the last 7 presidents can tell you that they're all corrupt. All the last 7 presidents. Come on, you got to tell me 7 out of 8 presidents are all corrupt. Every single one of them, like somehow Congress
Pakistan.
found.
Same thing, Pakistan. It's been like a military coup after military coup. Nobody can ever not one president there that's elected that's not one of the royal families or whatever, the bloodline families that have been in charge of Pakistan or the military dictatorship have finished one term. Not one. So that just could tell you, and who's always pulling the strings? The Western influence. We have the receipts for all these things. So it just seems so hypocritical to me, fam, that they can get involved with ones they like because it meets their ideology, as opposed to kind of turn a blind eye when this situation happens and says, well, Castillo, the communist, the socialist, he deserves what he gets. No, he does not. This is wrong. We shouldn't be interfering. If you believe in national sovereignty at home, you need to believe it abroad. And that's just the way it goes. Yeah. And if you don't, then you're just a hypocrite. And you know what I'm saying? You stand alone. Yeah. And let me tell you something, fam. I'm going to tell you this next section coming up, really, to tell you the truth. Like, I'm speaking at these groups and these things. I'm starting to fucking drift away from these people because they're so hypocritical right now. And they're not calling balls and strikes. And they're doing the same thing now that they accused the left of doing. Staying away and avoiding journalists who actually go there and allowing them to speak, to give their opinions, isolating themselves, staying in their own echo chamber, repeating their propaganda and lies. So, I mean, what's good for the goose is good for the
you're
gander.
Hardly a Marxist, so it's just
I'm not.
I know. It's like if they should speak to anybody, it's you, because you're extremely tolerant and extremely open-minded and very nice in ways that some of us wouldn't be. And you have the patience for it, and they really should talk to you out of anybody else. And the last thing I want to say on this subject is, if you care about the state so much and the state is corrupt, the state is corrupt. The current government is corrupt. This is why there's thousands of indigenous people coming from rural areas who don't have their voices represented, who support Castillo, whether they feel he is not strong enough. In fact, they wanted him to do this a long time ago.
Yeah,
they wanted Castillo to do this a long time ago. I wanted Castillo to do this a long ago. A bunch of our friends, anti-imperialists, were like, "Yeah, he should have done this a long ago." Why? Because this Congress is not a real Congress. They're not working for the people. They're not representing the people. So it's even in our Constitution. If the people in power don't represent you, you have the right to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. And if you think all states are bad, that's fine. But Peru it has a constitution, it has a republic, and the people are not agreeing with the current government. So it's their right to come and protest. They shouldn't be killed for it. They should be allowed to protest. There's a reason why this is happening right now in this country. And for years and years and years, this Congress has not allowed any president to govern. They have way too much power. It just doesn't work, the balance of power. And this is why these people want to change that. This is why they want new elections. They've been wanting a new Congress for a long time. They've been wanting this forever. Yeah, so again,
they don't want the West in, and they know they're there.
No,
they know they're there. Castillo campaigned that way. We understand what was going on. Yeah, fam. We don't have any super rays, but can I acknowledge it? Is that it? Did I cut you off? Did you finish or?
No, that's it. Yeah.
All right. So a couple people hanging out over on Rockfin, A-Rem, Fred Edwards, of course, Choir Boy, J-Mo. Guys, thank you so much. Do us a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. We need you to come out there. And Rory O'Neill just jumped in. Fam, Vicky Lynn, 1974, just came in. She enjoyed the Mel Brooks. She said, Fee, just ignore the humor. She did. She glossed right over. I gave her, Judas, have a beverage. Try something about when she's talking about Judas. I mean, I just went like, to the beautifulness, and fam just glossed right over.
I
it.
was
Jilly Love,
distracted by like the bullshit in the chat. That's why I
Jilly
couldn't
Love hanging out. I'm
properly
sorry,
enjoy
fam.
it.
Go ahead, dude. My bad. Sorry.
No, I couldn't properly enjoy it
I
because of the
gave you
bullshit in the
gold,
chat. But I
fam.
like
Hooah!
yeah,
Gold. I
Monty
gave you
Python.
gold, and you didn't do it. And you did nothing with it, fam. So, fam.
Fam.
Guys, thank you for everybody doing us the favor. Hit the like button, the share button. Remember, we are over on Rumble. 46 people watching. Let's get that number up. There are 19 people watching. Choir Boy, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rory. Thank you so much, Aram, Fred Edwards. You guys are amazing. All our premium subscribers, go over there, subscribe for just $14.99 a month if you can. If not, just wait until next month and we'll have something special for you. We talked about it. But if you want to get everybody's premium content, $14.99 across the board, it's great. On Rumble, we are moving up there too. We're getting some watchers. Vicky Lynn, fam. You don't know about Vicky Lynn. She's a full-time watcher now. And, of course, on YouTube, we're hanging out. Lucky Burrito, Jilly Love, DC, all the groups. Peace, Dove. We love you guys. You guys are amazing. Anna Ringwald, Edgar, you guys have been with us for so long, and we can't thank you enough. Hugo Gutierrez, of course, fam. Always a fan favorite. Robin, thank you so much. Hope you're doing well. And who else am I missing? I said Jilly Love, DC. Okay, that's good. President Jesus, fam, a.k.a. Jesus, fam. Jesus is Spanish for Jesus, fam. I don't know if you knew that.
Fam. No, I had no idea. Thanks for letting me know.
Okay, let's get to this next section because it's important because something happened today. I'm going to switch around the order of the doc. There's been a lot of lies that have been going on right now, and I'm just going to call them that for what they are. I was trying to be very nice. I was trying to reach out to these people. I was trying to say, hey, Tucker, let me come on your show. Let me give you a different perspective. Hey, Steve Bannon, let me come on your show. I'd like to give you Steve Bannon a different perspective. Somebody who actually went to Brazil with my business partner and observed the elections and actually looked at the actual process itself and can tell you exactly why it wasn't rigged, why it was fair, how it's been very, very poorly handled by the whole Bolsonaro team as far as trying to make a case to say that it was rigged. Tell me specifically how it was rigged, and then we can talk about it because we explained everything that's been going on. Guys, you understand what we do. We go and we actually went to the process. We went to the TSE, which is the Electoral Council, found out step by step how it's going on. If there was any fraud going on, it should have been caught in real time with pictures of zeroed out machines in specific areas, flag machines so they can look at them. But fam, it has been so ridiculous. They've been moving the goalpost every single time. This whole crowd, since there was no reporting on this whatsoever, has been constantly saying, and I'm talking this whole MAGA sphere, this Bannon, this Matthew Turmond, who will show his stuff, this Alex Jones, this even a little bit Tucker, this is Lula, a communist, winning in a fraudulent election at the behest of the CIA and the globalists, unfairly taking over, and that's what's going on. Now, you might be disappointed in what Lula is. You might be upset of what he stands for, but he's not even a communist, number one. And number two, he was duly and fairly elected. Is duly a proper word there? No, fam? Yes, no?
I think so.
Okay. Meaning expediently, nice, fair, whatever. He was elected. And there are reasons why he was elected. And any comparison to Lula being like Joe Biden is just... It's a lie, right? You know, it's not. Yeah. This is the guy who was a two-time president of Brazil, had resided over some of the best economic times, almost eradicated extreme poverty, excuse me. And nowadays, when you look at what's going on in Sao Paulo, when you look at what's going on in Brazil, there's a lot of suffering. The homelessness problem is out of control. Fiorella had a phone stolen. So did Danny Shaw. So did a friend of Aminta's. We're talking about people coming by on bikes, snatching phones. Crime is through the roof. Brazil is in some bad times. So to think for a second that Bolsonaro was some god and whatnot. And like I said, fam, I was trying to search why people really did kind of gravitate towards Bolsonaro. And we found out it was more of a conservative Christian movement of sorts. And that's why he was very much elected. A lot of people did look at him and standing up sometimes to the left and whatnot. But you had pointed out, fam, and what we had witnessed when we had talked to the labor groups, when we had talked to the people, they felt that Bolsonaro to let big agriculture in, Monsanto, multinational corporations taking over the whole farming industry, moving the indigenous people off their lands. This is coming from their mouths in groups we sat with, ladies and gentlemen. So we understood what had gone on. We had understand that the PT, which is his party, which is the Labor Party, and even though, fam, this is a tactic that's used now. Anytime you hear Labor Party, you'll hear the conservative or the MAGA group go, oh, that's communism. For some reason, the labor movement is now mixed in or now identified as communism, fam. Do you have any thoughts about that? Because that's just bizarre. I understand when they want to do the communist Marxist thing, they usually want to put the culture wars on there because that's really gets the blood of the red meat goers fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Right, fam? Like,
So-
oh my God, here come the. But that's not the Marxism we witness when we go down there. And now they've completely. I think they're moving towards labor means nationalization, means communism, means control, means bad. Your thoughts, fam?
Well, so back in the United States in the 1920s, the labor movement did have a lot of socialist ideas, but the labor movement was primarily focused on getting basic needs like, 8-hour workday, weekends, getting like, some sort of sick days, like things that now people are having to fight for again because they don't have shit. So that was actually tied to the labor movement. There were elements of a socialism in the United States. There was a communist party in the United States in the 20s and 30s. But what happened was that that was maligned and tied to Russia, to the Soviet Union. And then after that, we know obviously McCarthyism came in rampant and communists were the evil boogeyman of the entire world trying to take on the United States. And now that, Russia isn't communist, they just say, well, Russia is a threat to global national security. And I find it very interesting because it's weird because there are elements of the conservatives that support Russia. And they support Russia in terms of what it is now, like a capitalist country. And they're like, yeah, they're taking on, because the Democrats don't like Russia, right? So it's just very interesting. So Democrats don't like Russia.
Yeah.
So conservatives support Russia. But the moment I say something positive to say about Castro and how he was, I put up that picture like the CIA tried to assassinate him all these times, and how he had all these he had predicted so much of what is happening now. People are like, oh, he's awful, he shouldn't be celebrated. And it's some conservative with a Russian flag. And I'm like, you do know, like, they just installed a monument of Castro in the middle of Moscow, in the center, right? You do know that those ties are there. And I know from somebody that there's a monument for Chavez coming at some point. Okay.
Yeah.
So guess what, guys? You may not like them, the commies, but the Russia is still, Russia has Soviet elements in it. Putin comes, even he's not a communist, but he comes from the Soviet times. He knows what his country went through because of the West. And that's primarily why I think he's so anti-West in his rhetoric now, because he sees that there's really no compromise with them. And I think a lot of Russians are still not there. They're still like trying to say, well, maybe we could be more diplomatic. But the whole point of me telling you this is this idea that communism is the same as AOC, that it's the same as, the obsession with trans rights that both the left and the right have, trans issues, the obsession with what is called wokeism versus anti-wokeism. And we'll dive more into that in the next section. But that whole thing it's just the US idea of what is communist or socialist or left or whatever versus what the right hates. That's in other parts of the world. Socialism means literally just workers' rights. Socialists are conservative, socially. Like, they're conservative. When it comes to religion, they're religious. When it comes to abortion, they're not pro-abortion. It's just like so many things. They're definitely not there on drugs. They're definitely not there on LGBTQ issues. That's
marijuana, they're not there. Gay marriage,
Yeah,
they're not there.
all of
They're
that.
very
That's-
religious. Like I
yeah.
said, I would make the joke, and fam would say, "Well, I wouldn't go that far." I'd say, "Fam, these are like Trumpers who speak Spanish." You know what I'm saying? And I don't necessarily mean that, but I'm just trying to say that they're very much aligned. They're socially
No, because their economics are totally different, though.
Yeah.
The economics is diametrically opposed. That's the thing. The economics is what makes these people out in these countries at. But there's a bunch of idiots online on Twitter that call themselves socialists, communists, anarchists, whatever the hell they want to call themselves, and they literally regurgitate State Department talking points. So to me, they're liberals, but whatever. They can call themselves whatever they want. They can put whatever flag. It's a joke. Everybody else thinks the Western left is a joke.
Just for our anarchist friends out there, that it's mostly the socialists and communists who do that shit.
No, the anarchists. There's a lot of people calling themselves anarchists that aren't anarchists, in my opinion. Like they
What
give
I'm saying
anarchists
is that in the States, the cappuccino communists and the latte liberals are definitely more out there. That's what they perceive communism and liberalism to be, as communism and socialism to be, and that's what they cling on to. There's a group of them, but then we have the people who know what's going on, who know how to explain what socialism is, what communism is, and whatnot. Caleb Malpin, a couple of the people, you know what I'm saying? They can get it out there and they can explain exactly the economics is what they're pushing for, not the culture wars. Fam.
Yeah.
I want to show this to you because we need to let people know. Guys, Lula is officially in. Officially. He's not sworn in. I should take that in. Because he'll be sworn in. Well, this is a swearing, right?
No, he just received his electoral diploma, which means he will take office. Like he has been approved by Brazil's Superior Electoral Court.
Exactly. Let's
to receive this diploma. So then now he can so there's no contesting it. There's no Bolsonaro's going to bring in the military and he's going to take over, or that Lula's representatives have been jailed.
No Article 142. The military is going to stand by. I mean, this is the shit they've been saying. The reason why we want to do this right now is because we have to dive into this because, like I said, I haven't got a chance to go over there and explain why I think the election is fair and why it wasn't rigged. Okay. Nobody's been able to specifically tell me what. And fam, I didn't even put it in here because I don't want to go after smaller people, but Jesus Christmas, when people say the disinformation campaign, and I can't stand it because that disinformation word has been used to kind of censor people who are speaking in a dissenting voice. And they're like, that's a misinformation. But holy shit, fam, there was this whole campaign of just lies and propaganda that say the military is going to stand by him. They've caught the cheating, that they're going to remove these people. Listen, there's a lot of
that they killed.
Yeah,
that they killed Lula's people.
We'll get to that, and we'll also explain that too as well, because that's how sinister and deep this shit is going. Because I had to get on the phone with Danny Sean, talk to him about this, about the group they were kind of labeling that was once a political group that was jailed for many years, and when they got out, they went into the favelas and they took over the drug trade. So they can use that kind of mentality that they were once communists to kind of link them to Lula, to tell the lie that they were killing communists that were part of Lula's group. And that's the whole thing, the racism of sorts, right? To say that all the people that would be coming down for the favelas were Venezuelan freaking mercenaries that were, fam, this is, I'm not lying here, fam. And the Venezuelans, if they come down from the favelas, it's the drug dealers and the drug lords and the Venezuelan mercenaries, because they get the Venezuelan buzzword, right? The Venezuelan mercenaries that are coming down to protest what's going on, the rightfulness of Bolsonaro and the movement in Brazil. I mean, they were talking so much shit. And the anti-communism talk, fam, holy cow. It's just fucking awful, fam. I'm just going to put this up really quickly. It's just Lula walking across the stage, getting his credentials that we talked about, and he will be sworn as the president now, come January 1st.
Okay, so it's a done deal. I mean, it's not a done deal till he's inaugurated. But let me say this. Lula has the support of the liberals He's got the support of even some rich people. He's got the support of the working class. He's got the support of all these people. Why? Because even the rich thought Bolsonaro was too off-putting, that he was just sinking the economy, because the economy's bad. And you know why the rich supported Lula? Because they want to stop an entire revolt. The people were literally just going to rise up. If this kept going on like this, people would have rose up and literally taken over the government and smashed it, because it is that bad in Brazil. I have never seen a country that bad in Latin America, to be honest. I really haven't. People want to talk about Venezuela. Oh, no. Brazil, if you visit Brazil right now, you'll see the level of poverty that is there is absolute, like the decay, the decadence, buildings crumbling. A country that was once so industrialized, so metropolitan, is falling apart. And you can see that. And guess what? I see that happening in the United States. And it's the same type of government that led to it. So if people want to say Venezuela's economy is on the up and up right now. So I would say Brazil. Do you want to become Brazil,
Yeah.
Americans?
And
Because
they
you're
had to
on
deal
your
with
way.
sanctions. Venezuela had to deal with sanctions, a blockade, the whole 9 yards. It's
Same
not
with
like
Cuba.
what Brazil did. No, Brazil just fucking fell on its own face. I mean, a lot of people try to use the COVID to blame Bolsonaro for the mistakes to Brazil, and I would say that was politicized just the way it was politicized in the United States. But guess what? At the end of the day, there was still a lot of reasons why people went back with Lula. And Fama talked about the owners and the rich. That's a group that used to walk in lockstep with each other, the bourgeois class, right? The petty bourgeois, they called them, or whatever. I call them the owner class, because the owner class is different than it was back then. But they wanted some form of stability. They wanted Lula back.
Yeah.
There was a lot of them. They were like, we're done with this experiment. We want Lula back. Now, there's arguments that it was left, globalism, the whole 9 yards. I don't give a shit at this point, and I get what you're saying, but and don't get me wrong. Make no mistake about it. I believe vaccines will be on the way. I believe there's a chance at another lockdown. Shit I hate, shit I can't stand, but it's still up to the people of Brazil to make this decision. And the majority of the people said, what? Listen, we don't want to hear your shit. We open up our refrigerator. There's no food in there. We're starving here. And they used to have milk, eggs, cheese, chicken. They don't have any of that anymore. And we went to the people in the favelas where they were throwing the L's around Lula's because they love the guy. And you just have to accept that. But fam, what I want to talk about right now is this. Because I believe this thing is a friggin' op. I really believe it's an op, fam. And I'm not trying to put my tinfoil hat on, but this whole thing just seemed like an op to get people divided against each other. Is the anti-communist movement implemented to pit citizens against each other, fam? What are your thoughts? Because I see it clearly now, because this is not the first time. Remember, Cynthia Chung came on. She says, not the first time where they've played blame a communist for everything, but it seems like it's all about being divisive. One side yelling at the capitalist, another side yelling at the communist. This is done so people fight each other rather than look up at the governments that are controlling things and blame them. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the anti-communist movement has been used to pit citizens against each other. That's the whole point. Because you don't have to agree with communism, but let me tell you, the idea of the system that we're in right now, whether you think capitalism is possible if it's restrained and controlled, and there's elements that keep people from exploiting others, whatever, or a social democracy, which has worked in some countries, like in the Netherlands, because those countries also are part of the exploitation of the countries in the global south. But like even if you believe that there's a form of compassionate capitalism, like some people believe, this idea that the evil communist is your number one enemy, when the people in power clearly hate communism, and they're the ones doing this to you. And the United States is not a communist country. I get tired saying this. The United States is a capitalist country. So why are people in the United States blaming communism if you know that the United States is a capitalist country? It's supposed to be a free country, right? You're proud to be an American, where you're, at least you're free, right? That's the whole thing, right? Okay, well, so if the United States is a capitalist country, how could communism be its number one problem? Wouldn't its number one problem be the problems that the people in government are causing? If you don't want to say it's capitalism, then fine. The problems that the people in power are causing, the exploitation of people, the fact that they're selling your jobs abroad so they can pay people in the global south starvation wages and keep control of these countries. And, like, isn't like that the problem and not
Yeah.
communism?
Because it's not communism and it's not capitalism. It's crony capitalism taken over by globalists that want to implement communism on all of us. Because, see, communism is the big problem coming over us. And you can see right here, our good friend Matthew Turman put up, when a coup gets quelled. Wow, isn't that rich? When a coup gets quelled, while there's many coups going around Pakistan, Peru. I mean, give me a
Haiti.
fucking break, Matthew. Yes, it will be historic. First president where protest movement rose up to fight to remain in office. The people know you stinking, stealing, lying, conniving, coercing, communist scum.
It's a tongue twister.
This is the rhetoric. And guess what? He's not remaining in office. We just told you that. We just showed you that. And then he's got, Lula over there, the picture and stuff like that, fam. But this is the rhetoric you hear from this communist scum.
Lula isn't a communist. He's like
Communist
a left
scum.
liberal. His even own, like, we've talked to people all the way who are for liberals. First of all, these people, if he was a communist, he wouldn't be getting the liberal vote at all. Brazil does not want a communist president. Brazil is not a communist country. They're not Venezuela. They're not Cuba. They're not Bolivia. They're not Bolivia. They're not anywhere remotely Nicaragua. Brazil is like more like the United States and Peru in terms of like that sort of sentiment that's very much anti-communist. Brazil would never elect a communist. They just wouldn't. You can talk to people in Brazil and you would know right away. They just wouldn't. So saying Lula is a communist is ridiculous because he just wouldn't get elected.
Let me, I don't mean to interrupt you, but there are people in Brazil, just like there are people here in the United States that say that Joe Biden is a communist and says that with the Democratic Party, that Obama was a communist. I mean, it's just so many just low-informed people out there that really buy into the shit, and you could see what Matthew Turman said right there. They buy into it. It's so easy for them to say you communist scum because they equate communism to authoritarianism, to taking away their freedoms. And once again, I am not advocating for communism, but I am advocating for the acceptance of communism if another country wants to do so. That's what they want to do. We should stay out of it. But they use the communism socialism thing to manufacture consent for regime change, to manufacture consent for the State Department to do things. Fam, I got your friend here. You met him once before. Jack Sobek, right? With Turmand. I can't even say the dude's name, but we're going to play it again, fam. But I want you to pay attention to now. Matthew Turman has been on everywhere. He's been on InfoWars. He's been on Bannon several times. He's been on Tucker. They've let this guy speak his mind. Right? I emailed Tucker, nothing. I'm not going to go on Bannon because I was told because of my opinions on Brazil. You saw me go on freaking Jason Burmes's show. He used to work for InfoWars. Nothing. They will not let us go near them, fam. And even if it wasn't me, what about people like me that can say, okay, let's talk about this here? Nothing. Instead, they put this guy on as if he's some expert, and they've been lying and moving the goalpost all the time. Every single time there's something about, they're going to have 142. Oh, no. Oh, Bolsonaro's staying with lie after lie after lie after lie. The Gateway pundit has been ridiculous too as well. And we'll get into it. But let me show you a little bit. Fam, here's Matthew Turman and your good friend Jack Posobiec about the recent elections in Brazil. This is like a couple weeks ago. Lula and his party is not a coincidental that there's some symbology and their colors are bright red. 5-pointed stars. It looks like Marxism. The political Marxism of 20th century. And they're trying to conflate the culture wars for any type of economic Marxism in the South, right? Any type of economic Marxism, they're trying to discredit and make it about the culture wars because they know the Americans, that's the red meat, fam. You tell them transgenders, you tell them this and that, they get all crazy and they believe that that's what the Marxism is back there. No, it's economics. You ready for this one, fam?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Just hold your
Do I
breath.
need
here.
wine? Jesus, do I need a shot? What
We
is
need
this?
something, fam. Here we go.
So Lula, right, who was backed by the leftists, the Supreme Court's coming down, which is totally leftist in Brazil. The election, he just got ahead of Bolsonaro in the election. That's what this whole thing's about. They're pointing out so many issues with it. When I was in Mexico City, right, when I was down there, I'm sitting there doing my normal Human Events Daily show, right? We're doing it on remote, and then all of a sudden I hear this cheering, this screaming from outside the hotel. And I go and look, and I look down, and it's a group of Antifa and leftists, about 50 of them, and they've got, and Matt, it ain't like in the U.S. where they've just got the Antifa flags. They've got full on hammer and sickle red flags, and what they're chanting is "Viva Lula, Viva Lula, Viva Lula," and they're I'm like, this guy is like a communist leader in Brazil, a guy who had been in prison, and here they are in Mexico. The communists are out in full force for him. And it ain't like in the U.S. where they play these word games. Oh, we're anti-fascist. No, we're just communists.
No. They when people tell you who they are, believe them. Lula and his party, it's not coincidental that their symbology and their colors are bright red, 5-pointed stars. It looks like the Marxism, the political Marxism of the 20th century, which the Soviets were pushing all over the world. Now we know it's the Chinese pushing this. And they also 5-pointed stars. It is one of their symbols. And the fact that they, telling you who they are, hammer and sickles and pictures of Lula next to each other, protesting outside CPAC Mexico City. What's funny is they're not protesting or counter-protesting in Brazil because they don't really have much of a base, which only further gives credence to the protest movement saying they don't believe this election was honest. And we have to go back a little bit and, show the history. Lula in 1990 formed the Sao Paulo Forum. Sao Paulo Forum is CPAC for Marxists and Latin American Marxists in particular. And the Sao Paulo Forum is where Chavez and Maduro were incubated. It's where Petro from Colombia, Boric from Chile, Evo Morales from Bolivia. It is a who's who of the most vociferous Latin American Marxists, where Marxism has still maintained a foothold. And a lot of it has to do with the geopolitics of the corruption of the narco-trafficking, where they would even have popular support, whether it's the majority or a minority. They are politically relevant. They have been for quite some time. And if you look at some of the regions where Lula and this sort of Marxist political left has done well, in Brazil, it's in the poorer regions where there's indigenous people in the north and northeast around the Amazon. And they showed in this election, when they had the data up on the public site, that Bolsonaro got 0 votes in some of these precincts. Well,
I had to stop right there. I have more stuff.
Yeah, there's too much. There's too much I need to address. Like
the ding bell here, China, Marxism, get it going. Yeah. What else? Dude,
he named everybody.
Oh my God.
That's great.
The hammer and sickle, guys. So, this is a labor movement. Lula started the PT, a labor movement. He was a union leader. This is about labor. And fam, the last thing he said to in that thing was like, they showed zeroed out Bolsonaro machines. You're friggin' lying. Why didn't you have a picture of that when they had that done right away? You're going to tell me in a Bolsonaro district that somebody's not going to walk by the room? And if you didn't have that ready to go, then you weren't serious about catching the corruption in the 9 previous elections that Bolsonaro won. The same system's okay. You're so full of it. This would have come out in real time. They would have caught that, fam. And guess what? What he's also saying about the Bolsonaro zeroed out machines, it wasn't even brought up in the complaint. You're going to tell me you have zeroed out Bolsonaro machines and you're not going to bring it up in the complaint?
No, that means they didn't have it. That means they didn't have it. So I just want to address the idea that China is influencing all these countries. China, and it used to be the Soviet. Like, this is what I'm talking about. So it's so funny watching some of the right. You'd be like, oh, Putin is an anti-globalist, and not, but then like completely ignore the fact that Putin comes from the Soviet, that Russia and China are very strong allies. They have reiterated their allyship in economics and in trade and in the future, in trying to find a system away from SWIFT, away from the US petrodollar, away from any sort of Western influence, like that's literally economics.
Yeah.
Whether it doesn't matter that Russia isn't a communist country anymore, it's working with China because communist China, is still having to participate in the system, and it's a capitalist system. So I don't believe China is fully communist either. And I think anybody that tries to say China is fully communist isn't being honest. But it's just funny, like saying China's no. What's influencing these countries is literally national sovereignty and wanting to have economic restructuring, economic freedom to take care of their people. That's why these countries are in BRICS. That's why these countries are in ALBA. That's why these countries are joining CELAC. That's why these things are happening, because they want to trade with each other and not depend on the US petrodollar. That's why. Like this is nothing. It doesn't even have anything to do with communism anymore. But they're still using the specter of communism to try to shift people away from understanding that and it's funny because they talk about globalists and they talk about the global agenda. That's your own government doing that. That's the United States and these people that you support doing that. It's not all like China and Russia, by all accounts, are, and we've asked this question to multiple people and we keep discussing it, are opposing that agenda. They're trying to maintain their country's historic ethnic background that is under threat with NATO expansion. Because NATO wants everybody to be a just complete liberal, essentially, and these countries are fighting that. So it's just so weird to me. And also, of course, I have to mention everybody from the favelas is a drug dealer. Everybody from the favelas, and they mentioned the indigenous people, blah blah blah. So these people are all bad. I'm not going to go on a tirade and say, "Oh my God, what a white supremacist racist," but really, like, you're still saying that in 2022.
I know, dude. This is the shit that Cynthia McKinney talked about. It's like there is some fucking racism embedded there, man. Like you're gonna all these poor people or the cartel. He mentioned the cartels, fam. The cartels. And by the way, my girl over on Rumble, fam. I don't know if you know about my Vicky Lynn. I copied it real quick. That's how the founding fathers saw it. We should not be involved in what other countries want to do in their own countries. And I just wanted to put that out there as you were saying that. Let's finish up the rest of this video real quick from Matthew Turman, because he says some more of the bullshit, and then we'll get on to some other stuff, because then we will also address, fam, what we talked about, the way they kept on lying and moving the goalposts. I mean, you saw stuff it's official. It's Article 142. They're going to stand with the Bolsonaro government. But let's listen to the rest of this really quick, because it's mind-blowing.
The 5-pointed star was hilarious.
Fam, it's a psyop. It's a psyop. That's it.
It's in the poorer regions where there's indigenous people in the north and northeast around the Amazon. And they showed in this election, when they had the data up on the public site, that Bolsonaro got 0 votes in some of these precincts. Well, there are videos online we can see, video affidavits of indigenous people saying, no, I voted for Bolsonaro, I'm being disenfranchised. So it tells you that something is rotten, something is fishy. Of course, what would be the antidote to that? Transparency. And instead, what we've gotten out of the Supreme Court and the Brazilian mainstream press is attack the messenger and the message, no transparency. And the military has had a right to do an audit, and the electoral court, that's subsidiary to the Supreme Court and led by the same guy, Alexander de Moraes, who's imprisoning journalists and Bolsonaro's political allies, they, instead of complying with a constitutionally allowed and endowed audit, they're doing everything they can to block it out. They would
wait.
What journalists have been in prison?
He does the bad. And wait. Let's get this straight. Yeah, it's really easy when you're in your own echo chamber. You got nobody to push back against you. All that. Listen, it's so crazy. The 9 elections before that Bolsonaro won under the same system is okay. And then he's not even mentioning the fact that he made a complaint. All right, the Bolsonaro team made a complaint, and it says that these machines are outdated and they should be void. So they were like, okay, so we'll these machines then, from the first round, we'll wipe out the results and you'll lose your seats. You can amend your complaint if you want to do that. Oh, no. They don't do that. They won't do that, fam. They won't lose the seats they got.
Right.
What they're doing is they're trying to create a narrative out there that the people can grab onto without deep diving into and believe the bullshit. Bolsonaro did not speak for weeks. For weeks he didn't out there. And they're like, oh my God, this is the same thing that happened to Donald Trump. Donald Trump didn't shut up. Donald Trump could tell you every state what happened. That's what the speech at the Ellipse was about. Every state and how it happened. And it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same. And I've heard people, fam, and I'm not, like I said in the beginning, I'm not going to go out there. I'm going to expose these little channels. But the other day, yesterday, I put in Rumble, Brazil, and I put the most up to date. And I started watching a couple videos from smaller, let's say, America First podcast out there. And they're literally repeating the lies, saying that, oh, the situation in Brazil is ridiculous. It's everything that happens in the election in 2020. The mail-in ballots, the drop boxes, the whole 9 yards. Fam, I swear to God, multiple channels saying this. And then you think, oh, the only difference is
That's
the
embarrassing.
people of Brazil are standing up and we in America are not. Well, that's a complete lie, my friend.
That's embarrassing.
They don't even
That's
have
just
ballots over there.
embarrassing.
Matthew Turman has said the term ballots so many times, and this is the go-to guy here, fam. This is the go-to guy.
Because it's not about information, fam.
Yeah.
It's not about accurate information.
No, it's not.
It's about getting views from your audience, throwing them red meat, and making sure that you rile them up. The left does the same thing with their bullshit when they, talk about Trump 24/7 or talk about, X person being a white supremacist or talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene or Tucker Carlson. They do this with stuff like this about Brazil. Oh, the Brazilian elections are rigged for the communist, Marxist, globalists that want to take over. Like it's just hilarious. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have to. You'll get how many hundreds of thousands of views did Posobiec get on his podcast, right? Like, if you want the most views, if you want to get in the algorithm, you have to join either side. You got to join the liberal, or fake left, where they just constantly talk about the right and Trump and all that bullshit, or you got to join the right, where they constantly talk about Marxist Biden and the communists from Venezuela and in China every 5 seconds. It's literally that. You have to be a part of that, or you have to grift and get a little bit of both. But like, that's essentially what you have to do, and that they're doing a great job at it. I mean, look at all those views they get first. There's no nuance. There's no actual discussion of what actually happened, what the elections are, the logic of it. It's just completely
making these fucking just bullshit goddamn like insinuations that, well, a lot of people in the street, there's millions of people in the street, so it must not be good. There's no Lula supporters. Oh, these machines are outdated. You know what I'm saying? All these things, they were nothing. And like I said, they could have caught these things in real time. If me and Fam and our other good friend Lauren Smith can go into one of these excuse my French, I don't mean to curse. If we can go into one of these precincts, watch an opening, watch a closing, give you an evaluation, tell you what's what, that could be done at every single precinct with minimal money spent to make sure that you can catch any freaking corruption in real time. They've even gone as far to say, fam, that they've been trying to change to paper ballots in the court. All of a sudden now, I'm like, oh, really? This is new information. Now, once again, I'm not too up to date on the freaking Brazilian legislator, but that's a new BS I've heard. Every single time that they came out with some piece of information, they've moved the goalpost, like this one, fam. Right? Look at this one. This one's a beauty here. We had to bring this up here. This is a beauty. This is by News Punch, which is a group that I thought was satire, fam. And literally they were saying that News Punch was saying that they were going to enact 142, that Bolsonaro is going to stay in office. Brazilian military begins executing Lula da Silva officials. I have to pause right there. As Bolsonaro declared real president of fam, look, December 5th. As Bolsonaro declared real president of Brazil, and then the military saluting him as he walks by, fam. First of all, I wish I spoke Portuguese so I can understand what this guy's saying. Really, it seems like this guy, look at his face. He just seems like a dweeb. The Brazilian military has executed several top leaders. I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry, my guys. He might be great. I don't know, but whatever. Brazilian military has executed several top leaders of the notorious communist allied Red Command cartel as the country prepares for the inauguration of President-elect Jair Bolsonaro.
How can you write that? It's just lies. So, okay, can you explain to me how they executed Lula's people and how nobody.
Because they weren't officials, fam. I spoke to Danny Shaw. That Red Command, back in the days, they were political prisoners. When they let out, they eventually went over to the drug trade, right? This is way before Lula and anything else. But the fact that they were political prisoners and you can paint them as communist, then you can tie them to Lula and say they were his officials, because also the narrative from Matt Turman and Jack Posobiec and Steve Bannon and Alex Jones and even Tucker have been that Lula is a communist and he's tied to communists and he's also tied to the drug cartels too, right? That's been the prevailing narrative from these people, that we're getting involved in this election and it's yada, yada, yada. I mean,
And also, fam, they're still using the fact that he was put in prison, completely ignoring the fact that he was released and cleared of those charges and found innocent of those charges.
I also want to point out too, as well, that to just show you where they're getting some of the information, because we can't leave out the Gateway Pundit, because the Gateway Pundit has played their part. The Gateway Pundit.com reports it is an unusual step for the military. The army has invaded favelas of Rio de Janeiro and killed top leaders of the Commando. I can't say that. Vermelho. The Red Command drug cartel, which supports the communist criminal Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva. Fam, if I have a chance to say Ignacio, I got to do it. Observers take this to indicate the beginning of the federal military intervention. The drug gangs were the ones to celebrate the alleged election victory by criminal Lula on October 30th, firing automatic weapons into the air in the favelas. President Bolsonaro cracked down hard on the Brazilian drug gangs.
But that was October 30th. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why are they saying
they were saying that they were celebrating, and that on December the 5th, Bolsonaro sent in his military and his policemen to kill them because they're communist drug cartels that are aligned with Lula, the communist, and that's why they did it, fam.
But did that happen? Did they get killed, those people?
I think they did. I mean, but those are people of part of the drug cartels. They have nothing to do with Lula da Silva. If a drug cartel, that's what I'm saying, is that they kill a drug cartel person, you're going to say he's tied to Lula. It's beyond absurd at this point. It's beyond absurd.
So they're just doing that for clickbait. They're saying, "Oh, Lula's officials are being killed now," but it's like people that have no ties to Lula themselves, but they're just using it as like, "Oh, look, this is what's happening." And then they're also saying that Bolsonaro is the real president without.
All right, so here again, I just got to put more of this stuff in here. It says, Elon Musk, this is what the example of what the fraud in Brazilian presidential elections caused. The people do not accept a thief, a mob boss returning to power with the support of the Supreme, with the leftist media backing them up. And that's Matthew Turman. They tagged him and stuff like that. But fam, here it goes. And this is from Pelham. Bolsonaro has confirmed that the Supreme Chief of the Armed Forces, and they will back. What's that? That he is. I'm sorry. He is the Supreme Chief of the Armed Forces, and will back. And they will back the Brazilian citizens. Fam, hear it again. Is this not again the same footage we see of the Independence Day parade?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, guys. That's the Independence Day parade, and they keep doing this shit.
The Independence Day parade, and Bolsonaro had a march that same day. So a lot of it wasn't even for Bolsonaro. It was for Brazilian Independence Day, where obviously people are going to wear Brazilian attire. So that was used both by Bolsonaro as saying, "Oh my God, look at all these people coming out for me." Yeah. And also it's being used as if this is like happening right now in Brazil. And if you even just read a few comments, people are like, "Oh no, this is from that time." It doesn't matter. They keep using it.
My friend Danny was there.
Bolsonaro has all this.
By the way, he was there. Our Danny Shaw was just on the show, was at that parade, and he can tell you. He can tell you.
Yeah.
Fam, let me put this one up here. Did you put this or is this me? I don't remember if I did. You put anything in? This is me.
No. This is
Last
you.
week, thousands of is it up here? I want to make sure. Okay.
Yes.
Last week, thousands of President Bolsonaro supporters stood in the front of the Alvarado Palace to show their love. This is me and admiration for his 4-year tenure as the nation leader. A touching moment sparked when the president embraced a sobbing girl brought to him from the crowd. Fam, you got to see this here. This is like they're really pouring it on. This is Bolsonaro. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, Bolsonaro didn't come out and speak a lot. He stayed silent throughout the whole time. I don't know why. Maybe because he didn't have any proof of what's going on. But take a look at this, fam. This happened the other day. Everybody's playing this now. The tear jerks. Oh my God. Listen, hey, I feel bad for you if you really love Bolsonaro and you want him to win. But he didn't win. Get through it. He didn't win. Sorry.
Damn. So, I was wondering what did you want to show there?
That was today. You didn't see that? Like, hey, those guys wearing those blacks for Trumps, can we put them right behind us? Steve was like, when they put them right behind the president so they can show that he's the publicity stunts of sorts and whatnot. Listen, I don't know if that was necessarily a publicity stunt or if that happened organically, but that's what everybody's been tweeting and retweeting and just pushing it out there and showing him crying with the little girl. And oh my God, how can we do this to Brazil? And
yeah.
I wanted you to see because I wanted to know your opinion if you thought that was a publicity stunt or if that was something real and organic that happened and they just went with it, fam. But that is the thing they've been playing a lot. A lot of people have been retweeting and it's been out there on social media, on Getter.
But it's not new, is it? It's old.
Yeah, that was just the other day. That was just the other day.
Oh, the other day?
Like 2 days ago. Like a day and a half ago. Not even 2 days ago. It was Sunday. It was over the weekend. It was either Saturday or Sunday. It went up Sunday. I don't know if it happened on a Saturday, but yeah, that he came out of that was, I guess, where the president is and came out and addressed and they walked in the water to bring the girl over. And
yeah, it seems a little bit structured, but you never know. I mean, nobody's saying Bolsonaro doesn't have any support. He definitely has support.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that's what's being said. He definitely has support, but it's he lost fair and square. That's the reality. And I don't know why Americans are so interested in this election, but not in every other election that we have cooed, that the CIA has cooed.
Can I tell you why, fam? Because they can't think for themselves either. They're told what to do and they're thrown the red meat and then they go for it, fam. And they've been taught this anti-communist shit. You even said when you come over to this country, you have to put down, you got to swear that you're not part of the Communist Party. It's fucking embedded in our memory, in our teaching, in our programming. Communism bad, communism bad, communism bad, communism bad. So that's what they sell. You saw what he was saying, Matthew Turman, and that's just one video, fam. There are 30 videos like that,
Jesus Christ.
multiple times. The little free, and they stayed in their own little echo chamber. They didn't want to say me. Listen, I invited Matthew Turman. He followed me, guys. He followed me when I followed him. And then I reached out to him. I said, Matthew, how about we have a nuanced conversation about the Brazilian elections? I'll tell you what, we can start off the show talking about the American elections and beat the shit out of that and agree together, and then we'll go into a nuanced conversation about the Brazilian elections. The answer was, sure, when the time is right. I don't know what that means. I said, how about last Thursday? I said, how about Thursday on my show? Crickets, man. Crickets. And we will get crickets probably because he'll never come on one-on-one. And I hope to God he will. He's been spreading all this BS as far as I'm concerned, staying in his own little echo chamber. And all of them been doing that. And that's the thing they accuse Democrats of doing. That's the thing they accuse Fauci of doing, of Kamala Harris doing, of not taking tough questions, of Joe Biden.
I'll talk to him. I'll talk to Matthew. Tell him a real commie wants to talk to him.
Well, you're scum. You're scum. And that's shitty. And let me tell you why that's shitty, ladies and gentlemen. Not advocating for communism. That's shitty because people are forced into a collective mindset across the countries, around the world, because the empire puts their boot on their neck. The empire wants to go in there, control their government, control their resources, put the monetary system on there, and make sure that their way of life and their ideology is thrusted upon people. And it's disgusting. So these people are fighting back and pushing back the only way they can in a collective manner. So if they choose communism, that's up to them. I'm not advocating for communism. I'm advocating for the right to accept communism. End of story. And for him to have that rhetoric about and we're talking the most vulnerable, the most poorest people, and you saw how he talked about them and the favelas, fam. He didn't go into those favelas. We did.
That's the thing. He won't go into those favelas.
He didn't go to the TSC and see how their election system works. We did. He didn't go to 5 other elections to see how their system works. We did. And if he's got anything to say, if he had any cool honies, Matthew, let's go. I'll be nice with you. Because you can't
be nice.
Specifically how that election was cheated. And furthermore, you have no excuses for if the fact that it was cheated the way you said it was. Total incompetence by the Bolsonaro team. Total incompetence. This election is open to everybody. It's counted where it's cast. They put it on the doors. It's in front of them. One day of voting, national holiday. You must show up your designated location with ID. Expedient as can be. Where it's cast, it's counted. Public numbers that night. The official numbers that night. They give it to you that night. Everything they have, we don't have over here. Sorry, I got a text. Family, really, really quickly, I just wanted to show, I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. I wanted to show this really quick because here's the thing. They say that, where's Lula's crowd? Because this is another video. Matthew and Steve, I'm calling him first name, Steve Bannon, Stephen and Matthew and Alexander and Tucker, I guess there's no long name for Tucker, fam. They would always say, oh my God, Bolsonaro has these huge crowds. Where's Lula's crowd? There's nowhere. Let me is this up? Can you see that there? As you're using the image of a Lula rally in a small town and comparing it to the Independence Day event in Brazil, I think it's fair that I bring you a photo of the celebration of Lula's victory. There's a lot of red there, fam. There's a lot of red.
That means they're tied to communist China. Don't you know?
Yep.
They're all Chinese infiltrators. All of them. Just so you know. It's China. It's always China. No matter what, it's China.
Fam, I do have one more other picture really quickly of
my nails are red. That means China is in charge of these broadcasts.
So if you just type in here, if you just type in PT rally Brazil, you'll see. Look, is that like a Biden rally there, fam? Is that a Biden rally right there? Is that Lula da Silva? Is that a Biden rally? Oh, I didn't think so. Let's go.
Biden couldn't fill my apartment.
Oh, fam, is that a Biden rally too? Is there nobody there, fam? Is that a Biden rally? Is that Lula has no support? Where's all his support? Can't he doesn't have any support. How about another one, fam? You want another one? Hey, does that look like a Biden rally, ladies and gentlemen? Does that look like a Biden rally? You have to understand why Lula da Silva won and Bolsonaro lost. And if you don't understand, you're just being stupid because you're just not allowing yourself to look and see what's going on. People were starving in that country. I get that you're upset that the vaccines might be coming in. I get that you're upset that, the CIA might have wanted him. I get that you're upset that Victoria Nuland came to town. I get that you're upset that he was at the B20 signing on for passports for digital travel, but it's not our decision. People said they were starving in that country. Starving and hunger. More people are going to die from hunger than they are from the jab. By far, fam. And you have to allow the people to choose who they think is best to lead them. And that's it.
Yeah, and he's not forced for forced mandates or vaccinations.
No.
He did say that.
He's not going to mandate.
No, he's not going to mandate it. So, yeah. And again, I'm starting to have a really big issue with people who just throw the word, oh, he's a globalist, blah, blah, blah. The CIA, the United States backed the ousting of Lula into jail.
Yeah.
And it prevented him from running back then. So the CIA didn't want him then. Maybe they prefer him now to Bolsonaro, but did they want him then? No. What changed? Bolsonaro did freaking destabilize the whole country, really, to a point where I think they fear an actual rebellion in Brazil. And so I think to kind of control it, having Lula there makes it at least something that they think they can manipulate Lula, but I think they're going to get more pushback than they think. Okay,
fam, I just wanted to put this out really quickly because now the Gateway Pundit has put this up there, right? A little bit late than ever. And this is the stuff they're talking about. Fam, huge. Runback whistleblower reveals that the chain of custody for over 298,942 Maricopa County ballots delivered to Runback on election day did not exist. Employees allowed to add family member ballots without any documentation. Now, I don't know the crux of everything that's going on, but I've been talking about why aren't we looking at the goddamn contracts for who makes the ballots? Why is there no chain of custody when it comes to the ballot? This is something we've been talking for how long? Now, I don't know about the numbers as far as the other things are concerned, and I would question them because it's the Gateway Pundit. And I'm sorry, I'm just questioning all your work from now on because it's been so awful on Brazil. But we've mentioned the name Runbeck all the time. When I said to you people, who makes your ballots? Have you ever heard Runbeck? No. Who are they? This is Runbeck. They make the ballots. There's no chain of custody on any of the ballots they print. There's no chain of custody. Because it gets mailed off from Runback, and then when it's voted upon and you mail it, or if you drop it in a drop box, any mail-in ballots, it gets sent back to Runback, fam, for them to canvass it, and then eventually send it back to the officials. We've highlighted this with John Brakey for quite some time, fam. This is years we've been talking about this. Thank you very much, Gateway Pundit, for finally getting with the times. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Jim Hall.
Thanks for catching up, guys. Yeah.
I mean,
good job.
We've been saying these things for God knows how long. There's no chain of custody on your ballots. Who makes your ballots? You should look at the contracts, know what's going on. For years, we've been saying that, fam. For years. Oh, that's it for today because it's been a 2-hour show. Unless you want to do that. Do you want to do the Twitter files or we'll just do it for Wednesday?
We'll save. Let's go to mention it. I'll just mention the Twitter files. We're going to talk more about this on Wednesday.
Yeah.
With hopefully with Nick from Revolutionary Blackout, because I saw Nick had an interaction with Samira Khan, and Samira Khan was on one end of the spectrum and he was at another. And actually, I wouldn't mind having her on and them to discuss it because that would be interesting view. So, well, I would like to see the back and forth.
Well, go ahead if you can.
But I will
answer my tweet. So if she talks to you, please,
I'll see. But
Yeah. I mean,
This is red meat to me. This is a divisive, hyper partisan. I tend to agree with Nick's point of view. But and there was also that talk about the culture war. Like, is the culture war even like that? They're so focused on the culture war to divide, and and there was like this back and forth on that. I'll send you the link so you know what I'm talking about. But I want to go into the Twitter files, part 5, the removal of Donald Trump from Twitter. We know that Donald Trump was removed from Twitter because liberals hate him and they didn't want, him to say the things he was saying and rile up everybody. But isn't this like so hyper partisan? Isn't this so much about conservatives being the victims only when we know that Palestinian accounts are completely just shadow banned? Russia state affiliated media, Iranian state affiliated media, which by the way, conservatives are totally on board with the US intervention in Iran because they don't like the Muslim extremists, as they call them. And Muslim extremists do exist, but what we're talking about in Iran is not what they're saying it is, but they're on board with that because they don't like the ideology. And this is my issue. It's like, you shouldn't be on board with that, even if you don't like the ideology. Do I agree with wearing a headscarf? No. Would I want to wear it? No. Do I live in Iran? No. So it's not my fucking problem. I don't understand why it's just this whole thing is insane. And I think it needs to be discussed as to just how, to me, it's a distraction. I'm not saying we shouldn't have these revelations or I'm against these things being revealed. But what I am saying is you have to understand why it's being revealed, to whom it's being revealed, what is being revealed precisely, and what isn't being revealed. And the method that they're going about it is extremely questionable. And more people have started speaking out against this. To be fair, I was one of the first few that was saying this stuff. Like, we were on the show and it's not popular. Everybody got so carried away with this whole thing. But now, as they keep coming out and it's all about conservatives being the victims, people are like, wait a minute. Okay. Maybe this is a little bit. When are we going to hear the other side of the story? Well, I don't think you are. So I want to discuss that.
So Fee is taking the mainstream media line. What?
No, I'm not taking
liberal
the mainstream
line. I don't know what you're talking about. And
she's talking about the fact that the liberals are upset because Elon Musk is revealing all these things. I'm not upset for the same reason. They're upset because they want to hide. Because I knew this was going to come up at some point.
Why would you say that, Rob? That makes no freaking sense. I don't know.
Because I knew this was going to come up because the liberals are mad. Because they don't like Elon Musk because he sides with the right. So they're mad at him that he's revealing all this stuff. And they're like, oh my God, he's this billionaire. We hate him. Look what he's doing, blah, blah, blah. But it's not for the same reason that I'm saying this. I'm saying that this because Elon Musk has ties to the State Department, the defense industry, the CIA. He's got those ties. You can't just ignore that and put that aside and pretend that that's not going to play a role as to what he is allowed to reveal or what he will allow himself to reveal. 1. 2, you can't say that the focus only on conservative red meat topics isn't done by design. You can't tell me that Barry Weiss, a Zionist, is going to go release information of how Palestinian accounts and anti-war people are censored. She hasn't done any of that. Where is that information? I want to know. Where's the Russia state affiliated, Chinese state affiliated accounts that are shadow banned, Iranian state affiliated accounts that are shadow banned? Where is all that information? I would like to see that. I would like to see that information.
No, they didn't, Robin. What are you talking about? She says, yeah, that's what they said about the DNC leaks from the WikiLeaks. No.
This isn't WikiLeaks, first of all.
This is not WikiLeaks. This is screenshots.
This is screenshots. This isn't direct source material.
If you want to listen, if you want to show things, and we've been saying this from the get-go, you can't pick and choose and cherry pick which ones you want to show. Show them all. Show us the algorithm. Show us the methods in which you lift up information or you suppress information. That's the only way to be fair across the board. And what did they show? They showed 1. They checked all the boxes. They got your COVID one, Bhattacharya, which, don't get me wrong, I believe in that. They censored that shit on purpose, and it was awful.
Oh, for sure.
They got your COVID one. Then they got Dan Bongino and Charlie Kirk. They showed, right? The 2 anti-China war hawks. All right, let's get that there. And then they did the libs of TikTok. That's what they showed in Barry Weiss's thing, which is, of course, culture war, transgender stuff that just riles up the red meat base.
Yeah.
They didn't show anybody else. They didn't show the anti-war voices. That's what Julie Love said. They censor Palestinian voices. They censored freaking, anti-war voices all the time.
They censor the opposing narrative. Where's the outrage for that? For the opposing narrative on Iran, the opposing narrative on China, the opposing narrative on Russia. They're censoring that so much up the wazoo. They're censoring that at nauseum. Where's but okay, even if you think that, where is the rest of the information? Where is the rest of the information? They're not releasing that. WikiLeaks released everything from everybody. WikiLeaks has released everything from everybody. Direct link, first source. There was documents you could read. I can't read. Barry Weiss took a screenshot of a screenshot. She doesn't even know how to take a screenshot or apparently, I don't know what the hell she's doing. But it's not the same thing as WikiLeaks. I said this in the very beginning. If this was like WikiLeaks source material, where I could literally go and click, I'd be like, okay, cool. Let me look at all the anti-war voices that have been suppressed, and let me look at the right.
And this is dumb right here. I just want to show the WikiLeaks is only releasing them to help Trump. All right, yeah.
WikiLeaks is only releasing them. That's what they said, is what you're saying. That's what they said. Yeah, I'm not saying this is that this the only reason they're releasing this is to help the right, but I think they're doing it is to raise the profile. One, it makes Elon Musk look good. Two, it draws attention to liberals being the only problem, while you also have the Republican Party that is the other side of the same coin. So it's going to get people to go on teams, right? So that's all you're doing. You're choosing your team Elon Musk, team Republican, team Trump, while the liberals are choosing team anti-Elon Musk, but really pro Big Pharma, pro everything else. So you have two choices. You have the Democrats, you have the Republicans. They're two sides of the same coin. All I'm saying is the same thing we've been saying on the show for years now. They are both two wings of the same bird, the oligarchy. They literally, neither party is going to save you. Both parties want war with one of, if it's either Russia for the liberals or China for the right. It doesn't it's just, they are playing games with people to keep us divided. And they're using these Twitter files to further cement that divide. It's not unifying us. It's not revealing things that we didn't already know or didn't suspect. And I'm not against these revelations. I'm saying they're being manipulated to sow a certain narrative, and really to be an anti-imperialist and actually be thrown in with the likes of AOC or the liberals when I'm just diametrically opposed to their politics, just because I don't think this is the big story that you're being sold. It's ridiculous, really, because I just don't want to play their game of having to choose Elon Musk as my favorite billionaire lord and savior because he's somehow revealing things we already knew, and it's tailored for a certain conservative wing rather than the liberals. So I think they're playing games. This is why I want to discuss this, because I think so many people are getting it wrong, and I think the few people that are getting it right we'll see what happens in a few months or even a year from now, when we realize Musk isn't really going to change much of Twitter, because he adheres to certain people, right? He's not this single solo guy wrangling the rope by himself. He works for other people, guys, and that's what people need to understand.
By the way, I want to put this down really quick. Let me make sure. That would be a great interview. Okay, so check this out, fam. This is a Super Ray contribution. I'm going to put that there. Keep punching up, Convo Couch. Please speak with Michael Hudson sometime. He has a new book out, The Destiny of Civilization, Finance Capitalism, Industrial Capitalism, or Socialism. That would be a great interview. I appreciate all of your hard work. Thank you, Pasta. You have the best looking haircut on the interwebs. I appreciate you.
Oh, I don't see that on the thing.
Oh, I couldn't fit it in the thing. So that's
okay.
But that's, if I could fit it in the thing, it would have got up. But that is our good friend over there on our Rockfin. That was from Chuck Simon. Thank you so much, Chuck Simon. Your Super Ray contribution is always appreciated on the couch. Thank you. To other people like Todd Jones, who've been renewing their subscriptions. We do love you. And thank you to everybody else who's been helping out. This has been awesome. It's been a long show, guys. We only got to 2 of the 4 subjects, but it's always 2.5 hours. So we're going to cut it short today.
Yeah, I just want to respond to Chloe George. I still think it's a step in the right direction, though. I think rigging elections is a big story, though. I think you're downplaying it too much. You think that they're talking about rigged elections? They're talking about manipulating media and the Hunter Biden laptop story, which we all knew. They even admitted that, yes, the Hunter Biden laptop story was real before the Twitter files came up. But they're not talking about the mechanisms of election integrity. Am I wrong, Pasta? Are they talking about how elections are rigged? Did they say the words elections are rigged?
No.
Did they say that we have a proprietary software?
No.
Did they say that actually, by the way, Elon Musk supported the Twitter rules for the midterms, where you couldn't accept sources on the elections or you would be taken down. You couldn't like share sources that were deemed misinformation. He supported that. So what exactly are they talking about elections being rigged? All they said was, oh yeah, we're removing tweets for that for certain, Hunter Biden laptop stuff, but they didn't talk about the mechanisms of the elections, of the proprietary software, the ballot harvesting, the chain of custody. They didn't talk about that. They just talked about, oh yes, we're censoring voices of dissent of Republicans. They didn't even say Republicans, conservative voices. That's not admitting that our elections are rigged. People like Elon Musk are still going to tell you that there's misinformation and disinformation on elections because they did that in the recent midterms. They didn't address election integrity at all in that. They simply said the Hunter Biden laptop scandal was manipulated to help elections against Donald Trump and for Joe Biden, which is true. And that is one facet of election manipulation. But when we talk about elections, we're talking about the real like mechanisms, not just the influence and the media and all that stuff. We're talking about like this process of elections. All of these tweets that all of these things about Arizona, all these stuff that we talked about, none of that is being revealed as like something that is actually happening, which it is. I mean, the United States does not have fair elections. So I don't see that being revealed in the Twitter files in anywhere. I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't seen it. Have they mentioned anything like that?
No, not at all. I mean, they're just talking about, the narrative was taken down. Anybody pushing back against the narrative that was taken down. Charlie Kirk and Dan Bongino didn't point out like things in the election that were like really about the system and the framework that needed to be changed. They just went with the Gateway Pundit and all the other stories and kind of acting like it was all new shit that we had known for quite some time. It wasn't about election integrity. Listen, in Brazil, they have the whole situation where they have the Supreme Council dude who is allowed to censor speech and take people offline and censor their words. That shit's not good. I'm not agreeing with that. I think I'm against that. I think that's wrong. However, that doesn't mean that election was fixed or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the problem with American elections is people don't stick to the math, right? Like we have this whole situation going on, which probably tomorrow I'm going to do a special show. I got an election show pick up, and we're going to talk about certain things. Nobody catches anybody cheating in elections. The math catches them. It's the math. This is the Phil Evans stuff we've been talking about for a long time. We understand where elections can be tainted, where they can be messed up, because elections produce a pattern, a mathematical pattern. Remember I said I want to get the math at? Well, I mean, the math catches people, so we should be staying on message. They keep on going off on all these other things. Oh, these elections must be bad because this is Marxism. These are people working with China, why they're all out in the streets, talking about stuff that was never, ever, ever like taken into consideration when it comes to the complaints. Bolsonaro didn't put those things in the complaints that Matthew talked about. Nobody sticks to the math, and that's what they're doing in Arizona too. Is again, oh, it's the shit libs. We know they didn't win. You let these people do stick to the math. Stick to the fact that you have all these mail-out ballots. Now that's what we put up from Runbeck, that, there's no chain of custody. If you stick to the math, you'll be able to fix things and pinpoint where the problems are. Nobody sticks to the math, fams. It's all this whataboutism across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think people are putting too much stock in this whole in Elon Musk, in a guy that's a billionaire.
So
That is just funded by the same elements that are the problem. So anyway.
So Maxine Waters in the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services, we remember this yesterday. Representative Waters in the House Committee on Financial Services, once I have finished learning and reviewing what happened, I would feel like it was my duty to appear before the committee and explain. I'm not sure if that will happen by the 13th, but when it does, I will testify. So that caused an outroar and people got mad. Based on your role, this is Maxine Waters at SBF at FTX, Samuel Bankman-Fried. She tweets Adam fam. Based on your role as CEO and your media interviews over the past few weeks, it is clear to us that the information you have thus far is sufficient for testimony. As you know, the collapse of FTX has harmed over 1 million people. And you're just letting this guy just fucking, and you're it's hurt over 1 million people, millions of dollars. And you're allowing this guy to you're going to ask him. Your testimony will not only be meaningful to members of Congress, but it's also critical to the American people. I mean, look at the way they're coddling this guy. It's imperative that you attend our hearing on the 13th, and we're willing to schedule continued hearing if there's more information.
The guy should be in jail. He shouldn't be begged to come and attend a hearing. It's that simple. He should be in jail for what he did.
They're literally,
but he's protected by these same people. Yeah, they're begging him. But if they actually wanted, if they actually wanted to have him on and force him to do it, they could. They just. He's protected. He's a protected class citizen.
So tomorrow that's going to be on at 7 a.m. fam, Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern. That's the House committee. On Wednesday, the Senate is doing the same. Their committee, same time. So you can go. They'll have them on their YouTube channels. They'll have them on the governmental website. Just go to the Congress one. I think CNN or C-SPAN will have them too as well. You should be able to find them tomorrow, 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Eastern. FTX is going to be coddled and not held accountable for anything. Come on. And you can watch
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, SBF and FTX. Now, FTX and Samuel Bankman-Fried, they're going to get away with murder. I mean, here they are just ask them. And she goes, everything is on the table. Yeah. So anything else, fam, before we get on out of here? Oh,
that's it, fam.
AREM left a Super Ray contribution. AREM, thank you very much. It is always appreciated on the couch. And fam, we lost a lot of people on Rumble. Rumble is considered the conservative YouTube, and I think they kind of displayed that as we were kind of bashing on the Brazil thing. But that's the thing, guys. That's what we're going to be. We're going to be honest. We're going to call balls and strikes. If we think it's rigged, we're going to call it rigged. We think it's fair, we're going to call it fair. We're not going to be tainted. We can explain the specifics of what happened in an election. So that's the way it is, fam. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's it for today.
All right. That's it for today, guys. And we have receipts and everything for that. So
we'll see you Wednesday. Hopefully, Nick from MMA will be on with us. I just got an email, fam. I got to talk to you about it too as well. We'll have some great guests on Friday. Hopefully, either way, we'll make things happen. There's a lot of people we want to get inside the queue and get them on there. Thank you guys for watching today. Long show for Pasta Jardula.
Fiorella.
Pasta on those 1s and 2s.
Combo out. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. We love you guys. Thank you
Happy Monday.
Thank you guys so much for supporting us. We couldn't do it without you. Peace.